I think my boyfriend is trying to push our relationship off onto his friend. As the title suggests, I believe that my 24 female boyfriend, 26 male, is trying to actively move me to date his best friend. I've been dating my boyfriend, we'll call him Michael, for about a year now. We've known each other for years previous because we've always been in the same friend groups since high school. His best friend, we'll call him John, has also been someone I've known for a long time because he's also in the group. John had asked me out years ago, but I turned him down because he's always been somewhat of a cocky guy who could never see he was ever wrong. Many people find him charming, but I think smarmy is a better word. He seemed offended but brushed it off and even told people that I'd asked him out and he rejected me, which was fine because it didn't affect my life at all. After a few months, all was forgotten and we just pretended the other one didn't exist, and that's how it's been for years. Until Michael asked me out randomly and I decided to give it a shot. It turned out we had a lot of similar hobbies and really had a good time, so we started dating shortly after that. Now, about 6 months ago, Michael started to act strange, but in really subtle ways. I would talk about how much I loved animals, and he would interject that John just loved animals, which wouldn't be weird, but he did it with everything I talked about, even with the slightest bit of enthusiasm. If I loved it, John loved it just as much. He told me how compatible me and John were, and how he wished we meshed more. I eventually told Michael I really didn't care what John liked, because he was kind of pretentious and we never got along. He seemed really offended, but quickly recovered, and by the next day everything was good again. About a week after that instance, Michael would talk up John randomly, and with seemingly no reason. "Hey, I talked to Brittany yesterday, and man, John is apparently a god in bed, haha. Maybe I should ask this guy for tips. John is volunteering at that shelter we went to a couple weeks ago. What a guy. We should have John make us dinner. He's a great cook." It was every day to every other day I had to hear about John's greatness, and it was to the point I initially thought that Michael wanted to date John. Then 3 weeks ago, after we had some drinks, he asked me, "If we ever broke up, would you date someone else in the group?" I had no idea what to say because it was so random, but he quickly filled the void by saying, "I think I would if I were you and John were single." Seriously? So, 3 days ago, I confronted him in the kitchen and told him that if he had anything he wanted to tell me, I would listen to it no matter what, and that I'll always be there for him. He seemed confused and told me he had no idea what I meant by that. So I brought up all the times he talked about John, and how he would date him, and told him that if he really wanted to date John, I understood and would support them. After all, they're best friends, so they obviously have a good connection. When I say he blew up, I cannot stress how angry he got. He used a dozen slurs for gay people and said he was disgusted I saw him like that and that he would never do something like that. We ended up getting into a huge fight over it, because I certainly don't support his language or attitude towards LGBTQ folks, and that it was just a vibe I got from him and I didn't mean to mislabel him. We haven't really talked, but he's staying at his parents' house right now, and today John called me to tell me he doesn't support Michael's attitude towards me, and invited me over to talk about it, even saying that Michael was 100% okay with it. Am I crazy? Am I making up some convoluted story in my head? Or is this bizarre? Yeah, no, this is pretty bizarre to me. What do you guys think? Let's go to the comments. You should ask him why he is trying to set you up with John. You should also break up with Michael. Opie replies, "I just didn't want to come out and say that because it's so presumptuous, I guess. I have no proof, just that gut feeling that something is wrong. I'm trying to think through my options because this is our first real fight, but once again, it's always about John. Or Michael is secretly in love with John and hasn't wanted to come out yet. That explains why he blew up when you called him out." Opie replies, "Well, I've been thinking this over, and if that was the case, I really don't think he would have said the things he said when I asked. I'd be more concerned with his disgusting homophobia." Opie replies, "I definitely called him out on it. I think it just took a back seat to me trying to figure out the whole situation in general, but it is certainly not forgotten." So it sounds like maybe they want a threesome, or Michael is attracted to John in some way. Or here's the kicker, maybe Michael cheated on you and he thinks that if you hit it off with John and have sex, he wouldn't feel guilty about it. Maybe he's like trying to push a free pass on you without coming out and saying he cheated. Or they are swingers. Opie replied, "Oh my god, all these theories are living in my head rent-free right now and I can't get straight answers from anyone. This is going to keep me up tonight, I can already tell. Opie makes an edit. So I called Michael when he got off work, and the first thing he asked me was if I went to vent to John. Naturally, I didn't because we're not close, and told him as much. He didn't have much to say to that, so I started on my questions that you guys suggested. Why are you pushing me towards John? Do you want to break up? Etc. He got once again defensive, and said he refused to talk about it over the phone, and suggested we meet at John's place to talk it out. I asked why John had to be included at all, since it's really between the two of us, and he basically told me that it's really between the three of us. I refused meeting at John's for obvious reasons, and told him if it had to be the three of us, we could meet at a restaurant. He seemed fine with that, and we scheduled a meeting at a bar or grill that's pretty close to all of us. I showed up early and got us a table that had some privacy, and not long after John walked through the door, he sat down immediately and started chatting about how we were both so timely and that he liked when women showed up early, because it showed they had good time management skills. 25 minutes after Michael was supposed to show up, he texts me and says he had car problems and couldn't make it, but to get to know John since I was already there. I'm just beyond livid at this point. John keeps trying to buy me drinks and even tries to schedule another time to hang out. I confronted him about Michael pushing me towards him, and he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. I kept mentioning how Michael was talking about him to me, and John just said that it made sense because bros have bros' backs. I told him the bros can have each other, and left fuming. Michael's tried calling me 3 times. John's tried 7. I want to cut them both off and say good riddance, but to do that would be leaving the friend group as well, and I don't really have that many friends to begin with, and it makes me so mad that I even have to make this decision. Anyway, that's the update. Sorry if it doesn't resolve anything. It makes me angry too. One commenter says, I'm going to throw this out there that you did the right thing by refusing to go to John's house. I'm not saying your boyfriend would set it up so that something bad would happen to you, but it looks like John has an unhealthy obsession with you that he's somehow roped Michael into. Opie replied, After Michael didn't show up to the bar, I was really glad I didn't go to John's. If he wasn't planning on showing up the entire time, I can only assume they figured this whole thing out together. Yeah, this is starting to get really weird now. I'm getting kind of uneasy vibes from the two of these guys. Let's go to the next update. I went to Michael's house pretty early this morning since I have work today and really needed this resolved. I'd been up all night going back through the comments and trying to piece everything together, and honestly it was driving me crazy. Michael was alone when I got there, which was a relief because I pictured John showing up like a movie villain. He initially didn't want to let me in, which was really weird, but I told him I wasn't going to leave without talking to him about this, so he finally let me come in. We sat down to talk. I asked him about the last night, which he said he had car trouble, but it was all fixed now. Convenient. I asked him a few more questions, but was met with vague answers, so I decided to just cut to the chase and said, Why do you want me to like John? Do you want me to date him? Do you want to have a threesome? What is it? Once again, instead of answering, he just watched me from his stupid chair and then had the nerve to ask me who I told my suspicions to. So I said I'd been running them through my head, but that my mum knew I was coming over to talk. She didn't, but he was starting to be really creepy. He got mad and said it wasn't like that, and I was making him out to be the bad guy because they were, yes, they, looking for something long-term, not just a one-time thing. And now that all my suspicions were 100% confirmed, I told him you can't make plans including someone else without their consent, and that I would never be interested in anything with the two of them, and that I was no longer interested in anything with just him either. I started leaving and told him to never contact me again. Same goes for John, and he could share the message when he blocked my way out and said I had to hear him out and his side of the story. I told him I didn't want to nor care to, and that he needed to let me leave because my mum was expecting me in the next half hour. He started getting frantic, saying if he could just get John over there to explain, it would all make sense. So I ran out the back door and used the garden exit to get to my car and locked the doors immediately. He came outside and started pounding on my windows, saying I was making a huge mistake and that I'd regret this. I was bawling in my car when I backed it up to drive away. I'm pretty sure I drove over their mailbox by accident because the back of my car has a huge dent. My car was basically out of gas, so I had to stop, even though all I wanted to do was put as much space between us as possible, which is when I saw the dent. Right when I was about to leave, who else would call my name but his mum? She was on her way home from the grocery store and was worried because I looked like hell warmed over. I told her about everything that just happened and got more than a few stares from other people, but F it, I guess. I'm just the crazy lady at Maverick. His mum looked horrified for me and told me to stay as far away from him as possible. She told me to come sit with her in her car, where she proceeded to ask me when I met Michael, which was high school. She figured as much and said that in middle school, him and John assaulted a girl together and have a sealed record because they were minors and didn't mean to do it. She told me how sorry she was because she said it happened so long ago, she thought he changed. She put him in therapy and thought he was better. She said if she had any idea there might have been a chance of this happening, she would have told me immediately. I just gave her a quick bye, and I'm so freaking scared of everything right now. I'm going to my mum's since they both know where I live. I sent a mass text out to everyone in the group, detailing everything, and so far 3 people have said they support me, so that's good, I guess. What do I even do? I'm never talking to them again. I've already blocked them both on everything I could think of, but I've been getting hidden number calls since. I'm considering going into the police station to file a harassment complaint so that it's at least documented. My mum said she's going to call my uncle who works at the court and see what the next best step is. Thank you guys so much. I don't know if I would have confronted Michael without you guys confirming how weird this was. I'm terrified, but glad that I at least know what's going on now. My mum's here as my support right now, and some of the girls are coming over later tonight just to make sure I'm okay. I'm sorry if this only makes some sense. The adrenaline still hasn't left me and my hands are unsteady. I appreciate every single one of you who took time to help me out, because I think I just got out in time, honestly. Honestly, thank you guys. Oh wow, that got really scary really quickly there. Let's look at some more comments. Do you think this could have been the plan all along? John tries to get with you. When you say no, he told Mike to get with you and that works. After a while, John tells Mike to start hyping him up, telling you how great he is to see if you're interested. They seem to have a toxic brothers for life friendship, where they share everything, even girls, and don't really care if the girl wants it or not, as long as it's what they want. You said in an early post Michael was the more dominant one in their friendship. I don't believe that's the case. I don't think he does anything without John's say-so. When Mike was getting frantic trying to explain, saying it will all make sense when John gets here, I imagine he thinks John can fix anything, and once John says everything's fine, it is. I imagine it's been like this since middle school. Go to the police, tell them what they did to you, what they did in middle school. If you have any text messages, voicemail, any evidence at all, this is what they were planning. You need to give it to the police. They've done it once. They tried with you. If you stay silent, they will do it again. Opie replies, I'm going in about an hour with my mum and my friend Brittany. I have screenshots of the 70 plus phone calls from unknown numbers, and Brittany is kind of my witness to them trying to find me. I don't know really what to do or say. I just really hope the police listen to what I've got to say, because I wouldn't know what to do if they just dismiss it. Hey, how did it go at the police? You're not the only one predators have targeted. You're not alone, and you'll be safe in the end. These kind of things happen to anyone. I had an essay where I was the victim make the news because the guy was so creepy, so I hope you're okay. Opie replies, It went really well, I'd say. I told them what happened and even showed them this post, since my writing is better than my speaking. It's all kind of a work in progress, but they were going to talk to Michael and John before filing harassment, I guess. Fingers crossed that cops showing up at their house scares them away. You need to file a police report ASAP. Michael and John have a dom-sub relationship in where they lure women, and it has probably been going on for a very long time. In extreme cases, these become killing teams if not handled correctly. Opie says, I was planning to go in today to do that. I'm just nervous they won't believe me. I don't know if that's something TV has put into my head, or having no evidence, but I'm scared they'll think I'm just overreacting. This was the first post I ever saved on Reddit to check later because I was so worried about you. I'm glad you're safe, but good God, you dodged a hail of bullets there. I can't imagine how you must be feeling, but just know there is a stranger out here thinking of you and sending you all the positive vibes. Oh, and as for his mum, I have no words for her that are allowed on here. If your kid is messed up enough to assault someone in middle school, there's no fixing them. Not ever. And she knows it. That's just magical thinking and delusional. and that thinking put you in an incredible amount of danger, especially if she had allowed him and John to remain friends. Opie replies, "Thank you. Seriously though, she didn't find it worth telling me when they were still friends? Or when I told her how much Michael was talking about John annoyed me weeks previous? I have a hard time feeling anything but resentment towards her, to be honest." Okay, now for the last update. I'm so sorry it took me so long to update. Life has been crazy, and between everything and the state shutting down again, I've been a mess. I went and talked to the police about getting a restraining order, but the officer I talked to said it fell into domestic violence and had me file a DVOP, a domestic violence order of protection, and we have an unset court date to take it before a judge. I'm nervous as hell about it, but at least something is going to happen. With Michael anyway, because I didn't have a relationship with John and he never technically harassed me, there's not much I could do with him. I'm still getting a ton of blocked calls, but I'm in the process of changing my number, so that should resolve itself soon enough. I'm back in my apartment though, and we've added some new safety features, cameras and new locks, and currently it's a waiting game. I have to see Michael in court at some point to tell my story, and John's gone MIA. When the police went to talk to him, he wasn't home, and hasn't been as far as anyone I talk to knows. I get weird letters left at my door, but they've all been delivered by the post office, so not much I can do about that. It's mostly rambling about love, which gives me the creeps, but I've stopped opening them at this point and keep them in a drawer for when I go to court. I have an interview for a new job, so wish me luck. My boss has let Michael in twice since I've been back, and I don't feel safe there anymore. My friends are split 80-20 now. Minority thankfully is with Michael and John, but now I know who I can't trust. Anyone who listened to what I had to say and still think I'm being irrational because I led John on is an a-hole, no way about it. So good riddance. Unfortunately, my mum wasn't left alone, and someone broke her front window, so the police also had to show up for that one. It's been quiet for 2 days now, and I'm not sure whether to be relieved or nervous. Does looking over your shoulder ever go away? I hope so. This feels more like a diary now than a post. I'm okay though, and my life is getting there, so once again, thanks to everyone who helped or messaged me. Okay, now for some final comments. Love, these are clear signs of some kind of psychotic dynamic. Use the knowledge you have. They sexually assaulted a girl in high school together. Now they are getting violent, such as banging on your car window, trying to stop you from leaving, etc. No matter what, keep going back to the police station and trying to get that restraining order. Every time they call you, police station. Every time they show up at your place, police station. If you ever get something from them in the mail, don't open it. Take it straight to the police station and have them open it there. Seriously, every time you get any kind of contact from them, take it to the police. Build a very clear and distinctive paper trail that they are harassing you. Opie replies, "I've been writing down every time I get a call from an unknown number, and I have screenshots of all of them. There's like 70. I'm thinking of just changing my number, even though it would be a pain. I just wished they'd go away. Michael told Brittany that I stole money from him, so he just needed to know where I was to ask about it. She didn't tell him, but do you think if I brought her to verify how they're trying to find me, it would make my case stronger?" Now for some more comments a few months later. "Hey OP, I just found your older post and your update 4 months ago. Are you still okay? Is John still creeping around places you are, or has he contacted you? I hope you're okay and never have to worry about those two again." OP replies, "Hey, John has contacted a few people, but I recently changed apartments, so no incidents since, so I'm really hopeful. Thank you for asking. It was a really weird point in my life." This guy doesn't know when to give up, does he? OP says, "I think it was an ego thing that just spiraled. I'm hoping with time he'll move on and hopefully move away." OP updates in the comments. "Michael's tried to see me a few times, but every time he attempts to is just another thing I can write down for my court case. He technically isn't allowed near me or my place of work while we wait, but he's tried because he can't take no for an answer. Most of my friends are still with me though, and I didn't realize how much I hoped they would be until it all calmed down, and I still had them around to help me through everything. I got a new job and a new place to live after someone tried to break in when I was out of town. I finally got my day in court, and Michael can't be within 800 feet of me without me being able to call the police. He also can't go anywhere I typically go, which includes my new apartment building or job. The letters really helped with all of that, because everything else was just my word against his situation. I asked his mum to come as a witness, but she refused to talk against her son, so whatever. But yeah, basically, I'm breathing new fresh air around here. I've seen John twice in passing, and it still gives me the creeps. He's not barred from being around me, so he makes it a point to show up in public places when he can, and just hang around like the weasel he is. But the police gave him a very stern and impromptu talk when he showed up to support Michael at court. I think I'm in the clear, but they just want me to know they're still around, which sadly there isn't much I can do to stop John anyway. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that story. Geez, it took a bit of a turn there in the middle. I honestly wasn't expecting it to get that dark. I just thought maybe, he wanted a threesome or something. Not this kind of nefarious, possible, planned assault business. Geez, that's grim. Really good to hear that Opie got out of there though, and took action as well, which would be great for bringing down the likelihood of these guys trying something like that again. Am I wrong for making my son get a paternity test? All names have been changed. This is a mess, and I would appreciate opinions from unbiased people. It was recommended that I post here and another page. I, female 39, have 2 kids, male 17 and female 10. When I was 21, I had a one-night stand, which resulted in my son, Austin, the father wanting nothing to do with my child. When my son was 3, I met my husband, Mark, male 38. My son adores my husband and calls him father. Austin met his current girlfriend through Mark's best friend Alan, her father. Macy and Austin have been close since they were young, and we were all thrilled when we found out they were dating. After we found out, Mark and I sat Austin down and explained that we were happy for him, but we needed him to know the importance of safe sex, whether it was happening or not. He was disgusted but said he understood, and we left it at that. For context, my son is what others describe as shy and soft-spoken. He's really sensitive and takes harsh comments and actions to heart. We thought everything was fine with him until he came home crying. He eventually told us Macy had cheated on him. I was angry and urged my son to leave, but my husband calmed us both and asked to speak with Austin privately. Essentially, he asked Austin what he wanted to do and if he wanted us to stop seeing Macy and her father. Austin said he didn't want that and wanted to work things out with Macy. I was upset but didn't say anything. Ever since that happened, I've hated seeing her around. All I think about when I see her is my son distressed and crying his eyes out. I act cordial around her, but I don't like her. Around February, Austin came home looking rather upset again, so I sat down with him and asked what's going on. I wasn't expecting to hear him say what he said to me. Macy's pregnant. I was furious. I told him I expected better from him. I also said that before anything happened, he needed to do a paternity test. He was angry that I suggested she cheated again, but I didn't like how she was suddenly pregnant. When Mark came home from work, I filled him in and he was equally upset. We all sat down and discussed it. Austin explained that I demanded a paternity test was done, and Mark wasn't happy to hear that. I explained that she's cheated before. She could have cheated again. That led to a huge argument before we all calmed down. I asked if her parents knew. Apparently not. He said she agreed to tell them tonight. And sure enough, about an hour later, Mark gets an angry call from Alan, demanding that my son marries his daughter, and if Austin refuses, he demands that he pay child support and stay out of this kid's life. Of course, we were all angry and exhausted, so I said that nothing was happening until a paternity test was done and I wasn't taking the word of a cheating little girl. He blew up at us, and it was radio silence after the call. Macy was told she can no longer see Austin, and he took it out on me. A few weeks ago, Alan contacted us and agreed to do a paternity test. I asked why the sudden change, but he ignored me. He said he set up the appointment for May 5th. Austin went with Mark. He said he didn't want to be around me. It stung, and I won't lie, it made me cry when he said that. Results finally came in a few nights ago, and he isn't the father. He was shattered. Instead of apologizing, he screamed that this was my fault and he'd have never known. He hasn't said much to me since. Maybe I was wrong for making him do a paternity test, but I was only looking out for my son. Was I wrong for making him take a paternity test? I mean, no, it's a fair request given the history, right? And it turned out to be true as well. So yeah, I think the son is probably just a little bit upset. and probably just looking for a scapegoat to take his emotions out on. Let's go to the comments. You're not wrong. The girl was a known cheater. Your son was an easy mark. He is young, sensitive, and hurt. This pregnancy would have affected his entire life going forward had he been the father. He will appreciate your insistence on the paternity test after he has a chance to sort his emotions. He's hurting right now, and you're just the person he took it out on. Once he understands the gravity of the situation and what it takes to raise a child, he will thank you. 1,000,000% not wrong. He will appreciate it one day. I'm not sure why your husband was so against the paternity test from the start though. Since your husband was against it, your son feels like you're in the wrong for pushing on it. He's just dealing with a broken heart right now. Don't take it to heart. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. On to an update. Hello all. I got a few requests for an update, so here it is. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their opinions. I was questioning if I did the right thing since finding out he wasn't the father, and thought I was too rough with the situation. We've all been in therapy, group and individual. My son has started to come around and apologised for the yelling and crappy choices, he calls it that, not me, he made. His therapist encouraged him to explain his thought process about the entire thing, and essentially he thought she was the one. She was his second girlfriend, and thought they had a strong bond, until one of his friends showed him a picture of her kissing some other guy. It turned into a big fight and only escalated when he found out they'd slept together. I myself have been cheated on, and it made me angry to know Austin had to experience it himself. He said he wasn't happy about the entire thing, and he's feeling guilty for taking it out on me. We hugged it out and got ice cream afterwards. A little ritual after we've had an argument. Austin also broke up with Macy after finding out. Of course she blames me for the entire thing, but she's old enough to know that her actions have consequences. She hasn't been handling it well. Apparently she's been lashing out at everyone possible and attempted to egg our house. Austin has been quiet, but I can tell he's starting to accept what's going on, and he's been spending more time with friends. I've been giving him his space, and I think that's helped in the long run. Now on to Mark. A lot of people had a lot of assumptions about him, and some even suggested he's the father, but that is far from the truth. He's known this little girl her entire life, and thought she was better than that. He wasn't trying to save his friendship with Alan. He was allowing our nearly adult son to make his own choices and deal with the consequences of said choices. Macy has also given birth recently, and we know who the father is. Unfortunately, the father was Austin's best friend, Chris. He decided it was a good idea to tell Austin while they were hanging out here. I wasn't in the room when he was told, but I was there when he started to beat Chris up. I was outside setting up Halloween decorations in the front yard when I heard a thunk and some screaming, so I ran in through the front door to find Austin punching Chris over and over again. Mark also heard the commotion and came to pull Austin off Chris. Chris apologised and left. It wasn't until he drove away that Austin broke down crying. We all went out for dinner that night and we've tried to cheer him up, but I'm starting to realise he needs space on this and to let him come to me about it when he's ready. Mark and Austin have been going out the last couple of days. Mark says that he remembers when he was Austin's age and only hopes he's helping him realise that he's got a whole lifetime to find his one. Therapy has helped us out, but I know he needs his space to process this. Thank you all once more, and please, take care of yourselves. Alrighty, and we've reached the end of that story. Wow, how rough it would be to find out that it's your best friend sleeping with your girlfriend. God. But yeah, glad to hear that the son was able to forgive OP in that instance. I think it was inevitable anyway. Anyway, let me know what you think, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, My ex-girlfriend might have lied to me about our baby not being mine. Rose, 28 female, and I, 29 male, were together for 4 years, from our last year at school until just after university. I loved her very much and genuinely thought I would marry her. However, we were very much not in a place to have a child. We had previously discussed the matter and agreed that we were both okay with termination if it came to it. 6 years ago, she became pregnant. She broke down when she told me, 4 months in, and admitted that she'd cheated on me, and the baby wasn't mine. I immediately ended the relationship, and she moved home to have the baby. It crushed me, as this was totally out of the blue and utterly unlike her, and she refused to provide many details, and the whole situation just seemed vague and off. Recently, Rose's father passed away, and my mother attended the funeral. While there, she commiserated with Rose, who is there with her husband and daughter who, according to my mother, is visibly biracial and has a striking resemblance to me. How do I even begin to bring this up with her? I feel like I have to, but no idea where to even start. I don't want to be a dad, but I also don't want to just abandon some kid that might be mine. I also feel like I've moved on enough to be ready for closure and to actually address the whole matter with Rose. The breakup happened in such a rush and she moved away before I felt able to address the topic in any kind of rational, logical way. The options are that she cheated on me and became pregnant with someone else's child, she cheated on me and has lied to me about her pregnancy, or she just made up the whole scenario for some frickin' reason. Help? Well, I'm sensing a theme in this episode already. Let's go to the comments. Or she lied because she changed her mind about being willing to terminate. Would you have raised the baby with her or tried to get her to terminate the pregnancy? You aren't ready to be a dad and have no idea if the child is yours. You can choose to go through the courts for DNA, but will need to be ready if it's your child. Child support and visitation will be something to fight for, but it may be a fight with lawyers. How ready are you to find out if you are the dad? You didn't abandon a child. You didn't know you were the father, if she is yours. You did nothing. You don't want to be a dad. Rose didn't want the child to be yours. Leave it be. Opie replies, It's been 6 years and I've grown up a lot. I respect that this child has another father figure in their life at this point, but, for example, I have adopted cousins who have gone looking for their biological parents, with full respect to their adoptive parents, and found it very rewarding. I guess I want to make sure Rose knows if her child ever wants to speak to me, I'm open to it. Ideally, my family would like to know their first grandchild. In the future, the child might like to know her culture. If I ever have children, I would want them to know about their half-sister. At a minimum, Rose never gave me the chance to change my mind the way she changed hers, and she might have chosen to lie to me about cheating on me and genuinely shook up how I deal with relationships for a long time. One commenter asks about looking from the ex's perspective and allowing her to have choices. Opie says, I do understand that's her perspective. She was put in a position where perhaps she could only see options that hurt me and her and the child, or options that only hurt me. Maybe that's the case. Maybe she chose the best of a bad set of options. But she still hurt me, and lied to me, and hid my own child from me. And I think being hurt and confused and looking for answers is still a valid response. If she'd been honest with me, she could have ended up in the same place, with a new partner, with a lovely little daughter, living where she pleased, and with a bit of support, financial or otherwise, from a version of me that wasn't in therapy for 2 years over the things she lied to me about. Yeah, seems fair enough what Opie is asking for here. Let's go to the update. Lots of people were asking for an update on my last post, so here we go. The kid is 100% mine. I'm going to call her Daisy for this post. I've met her a few times and she's a really cute, lovely little kid. I'm enjoying getting to know her. Although of course I am sad that I missed out on so much of her development and so many firsts. I'm also sad she hasn't had my influence, as every father would hope to influence their child. For example, she understands some Polish because of her stepfather's family, whereas I grew up in a house where elders spoke Creole. I wish she could have been able to explore her heritage from birth, but now she can choose whether she wants to do so, which is also exciting. She also strongly resembles me as a child, which is strange but nice. My mother says she is a spitting image of her aunt, so we have been showing Daisy some family photos, which she seems to enjoy. My ex, Rose, is doing a great job of raising her. I want to stress that. Rose behaved badly in our relationship, but she is a wonderful mother. I'm going to be getting to know Daisy a bit better over time, with a view to having her eventually spend summer or winter vacation with me, if she wishes to, when she's a little bit older. Rose and her husband are also going to bring her to meet my mum when they're in our hometown, so Daisy can get to know her biological grandmother if she wants. Rose is married to a very decent guy who clearly adores Daisy. To answer a question I got in quite a few DMs, the husband is white, Rose is white, and I am black, so it was fairly obvious that Daisy was not his biological child. However, he is very obviously her daddy. We're getting along well and he is supportive of me getting to know Daisy. Now the hard part. Rose has apologised repeatedly for her actions. She says she did not cheat on me, and I've come to believe her. However, the lie still hurts. She has explained this is something that has weighed on her heavily, and she knew she would have to address it eventually. I have not forgiven her, but we're moving past it as best we can. We are both in therapy, and considering doing some therapy as a unit to make sure we're healthy co-parents for Daisy. I've called her out and will continue to call her out. This has not been one conversation but a long series of talks to understand one another's positions. Her explanation was that she knew if I knew she was pregnant and wanted to keep the baby, I would have given up on the life I wanted to have in order to support her. Instead, she broke up with me and moved home, where her father supported her until she had Daisy. But for the sadness of this situation, I am in a good place in life now and relatively successful. Perhaps she is right, I would not have managed to do this if we'd had a baby at our young age, but I still wish she would have given me the choice to say yes or no. However, what is done is done. There is some stuff I do not want to mention, even on an anonymous forum like Reddit, which gives me further context and understanding for Rose's actions. Apologies for the anticlimax or for leaving that out, but it wouldn't feel right. Rose and her husband are currently declining to accept child support from me, saying they earn enough to raise Daisy without. They've not made access to Daisy contingent in any way on money or anything else. I'm going to check with a lawyer to determine whether this is something they'll be able to pursue me for in the future, and to explore the legalities of instead placing such money into a trust fund for Daisy's use as an adult, or perhaps for college. I think that's everything. It's not as dramatic as I know people were hoping, so I'm sorry, but I think everyone in the situation is doing their best. Okay guys, and that's the end of that. Oh my god, a group of adults behaving like adults in a difficult situation? What am I reading? Is this fake? Must be right. Regardless, it's pretty good to hear an ending like that anyway. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments and we'll jump to our next story. Okie dokie, this next one was written by user C Ambassador and it's titled, I can't keep my sister's husband's secret anymore. I have a beautiful family, 2 loving and caring parents. My sister, 35, who is way older than me. She is beautiful, intelligent and capable of doing everything she wants, and her husband, 42. He talks a lot and tries to be funny, but he is not. I always pictured my sister to end up with someone better, but she loves him, so we always treat him good, for her, and we welcomed him when they announced their engagement 10 years ago. At that time I was 13, and we planned a family trip to celebrate their engagement. It was great. My family is traditional, so, as they were not married yet, I shared a room with my sister. Remember this, because it's important. Everything went good, and 3 years ago my sister got pregnant. We were really happy, and my parents have always dreamed to have a grandchild, so that Christmas was special because it was our last one before welcoming their child. My brother-in-law was nervous all night, and he drank a lot. He tried reaching out to me multiple times, but I saw him drunk, so I tried to avoid him. When he could finally speak to me, he started talking about this weird dream he had. I couldn't understand a thing, so I ignored him. Later that night they went back to their home, and I received a message from him saying, "Remember that trip when your sister and I announced our engagement? Well, one day on that trip I entered to your bedroom because I was looking for your sister, and she was not there. But you were in the bathroom changing your clothes, and the door wasn't fully closed, so I could see. My dream was the continuation of that." That's all I read, and I immediately felt grossed out. He saw that I didn't respond and tried to continue the conversation, telling me things that I prefer not to repeat. But after a while he gave up. I took screenshots and started crying. I cried all night and told my best friend about it. She told me to talk with my mum, and I did. The next day he had deleted all the messages, so I showed my mum the screenshots. She told me to stay calm and that she would talk to him. That year we had a trip for New Year's Eve, and it was a nightmare for me. My sister was stressed because of the pregnancy, and I felt really guilty. My mum told me that she spoke to him, and he apologized. He said that he didn't mean that, and that I misunderstood. She didn't believe him and warned him about how wrong it was what he did. But she knew that my sister needed him at that moment, so she stayed there for me, but told me not to tell her about it. Since that moment, he hasn't said anything about that to me, but I still feel insecure when travelling with him. I've stopped visiting them and lost a lot of time with my nephew. I feel bad for my sister because she knows that something is off, but she thinks that it's me. I have anxiety now and hate family reunions. I don't know what to do. We have a family trip soon and I really don't want to go. I wasn't like this before and I missed my beautiful family. Any advice? On to the comments. Tell your sister. She needs to know. You should tell your sister. It would probably be kind of awful, but it's better she knows now. Your mother protected a monster to not cause any drama, and that was a very bad move. Make plans with your sister, just the two of you, and explain what happened. Show her the proof. If you can't bring yourself to explain it, show her this thread, unless you think she'll blow up with you writing about family drama online. In which case, write her a note basically copying what you wrote here, and then show her the proof. But she needs to know why you've distanced yourself, and most importantly, she needs to know what a monster she's married to. Okay, on to an update. Thank you for all your comments and support. I was lost and felt a lot of pressure, but reading your comments helped me to get through this. It took me a lot to find the courage to tell her, and to write an update here. I'm sorry. My mum and I invited my sister for dinner and finally told her. She was obviously devastated, but was mostly concerned about my mental health. She asked me how I've been feeling and thanked us for telling her. She was upset at the beginning with me and my mum for keeping this from her, but she recognised that it was something really big for her to deal with through her pregnancy. I know that most of you are mad at my mum, but she did what she could. Maybe it could have been handled in a better way, but I don't blame her. She's wonderful. My sister is not doing well. She's trying to organise things at her home and with my nephew. We are helping her with everything we can, but it's not easy. She's been preparing to leave her husband as soon as possible. She hasn't told him what she knows, but she will once she has everything ready. Me and my mum have been babysitting my nephew these days, as she doesn't want her husband near him. Okay, and that's that for that story. Yeah, pretty scary having someone like that around your family. Let me know what you think about that one down below. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to go and see her son before he dies? My wife, Sarah, 39, has a son, Vicky, 20, male, from her previous marriage. Because of the way my wife and I got together, there was a lot of strife in her divorce from her ex. There was a lot of turmoil in Vicky's life, and he was only 8 years at the time. For a few years, my wife tried her best and tried everything to help him, but it was like the more she tried, the further away he got. It came to a head when he was 12, and she caught him trying to smoke, and then he almost broke her jaw when she stopped him. After that, she stopped trying to force the custody and just let him stay with his dad. When he was 14 and we had our son, she sent him a message that his brother was born, and that even if he doesn't want to be around her, it doesn't mean he can't love his brother. He just responded back with, "Go F yourself." She tried the same thing 3 years later when our daughter was born, but got no response this time. Well, 2 days ago, she got a call from her ex, and he was crying, and apparently Vicky is dying. He has cancer, and they found it very, very late, and he's optimistically only got a month left, and he's been begging to see her. So I've told my wife to go and spend the month with him. She can work online for a month, or take leave, or just quit if they don't understand. However, she's refused, and she's used everything from work to needing to take care of our kids to even, what if it's just a trick to hurt me more, as excuses to not go. At the same time, she keeps crying, muttering about thinking she had more time, ignoring our kids, looking at old photo albums of her and Vicky. It came to a head this morning when I caught her having a breakdown in her car before going to work. I begged her to reconsider when I saw, and she called me an effing a-hole for trying to push her into going. I know he's not my son and that I have no right over him, but not going is tearing Sarah apart. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. To everyone confused, when our kids were born are not the only 2 times that my wife tried to reach out and ask if he was ready to see her. It's just when our son was born was the only time that he responded. She tried up until his graduation, when even his father tried to get him to invite her. She sent him money, presents, and everything for his birthdays. And as for when he struck her when he was 12, he did so with a hockey stick, and then kicked her when she fell. She forgave him for that because she knew what he was going through, and he's her child. But she decided to stop seeing him then because she didn't want her presence in his life to make him more violent. What if he hit another kid like that, was her thought. And to everybody saying therapy, yes, she took him to therapy. She tried so much, but he was non-responsive then. Geez, this is rough. Let's go to the comments. I have a child with a serious mental illness who's attempted to kill me. Now that she's doing better, she expresses guilt and asks forgiveness. It goes a long way towards helping me heal from that experience. Please tell your wife she can talk to me anytime. Have you talked to her about how she is feeling? Don't give her any solutions, just listen to her and put yourself in her shoes and let her know you empathize with her. It sounds like she's having a lot of conflicting thoughts and maybe needs a pair of ears to help her work it out. Not the a-hole. Can I make a recommendation, or a couple? Why on God's earth can't they have a phone call or a few before any type of visitation is planned? Your wife is very aware he could use this visit as an opportunity to be hateful to her, so I can see why she's hesitating. What if she goes down and the last thing she hears from him is something terrible? At least a phone call between them could at least set a tone. If you can convince her to visit, why don't you volunteer to go with her initially? You don't have to visit, but you could be with her for the trip. If she decides to stay longer, you could come home. Yeah, some sound advice from the comments here. Let's see what the update says. It's posted about a month after the original. I provided proof that this is me since my account was banned, probably because I made it from a work machine I remote into. My wife's son Vicky passed away a week ago, and I guess I'm posting because I also feel I need to clear up how I feel about things, and people were so willing to listen here before. Now, after my wife came home the day I posted, we had another big argument about it, and I honestly felt I wasn't getting through to her. I tried to use some of the points that people in the comments told me, and I just was surprised at how stubborn she could be. But it ended with her screaming at me that her son's not sick, he's not dying and he's fine. I don't know if she was just that deep in denial or she thought it was a trick or something, but the way she screamed scared our kids, so I felt that I just had to let it lie. My wife actually got a call a few days later from a young woman claiming to be her son's wife and begging her to come, and that made her do it, and the people at her work were so understanding, they gave her up until the end of this month off. My relatives came over to help me with the kids, since she made it clear that she had to do this by herself. She took a flight out to where her son's family was staying, got a hotel, and went to see him. She hasn't really told me everything in detail, given that she only got home 2 days ago, but pretty much, according to her ex, their son started acting odd about the time he graduated high school. They didn't think anything of it then because he was acting way more mature. They got married in India about half a year ago with no objections, and she said her ex was blaming himself for not having realised that he'd changed because he was sick. She told me they got him married because his wife is the only child of a family with a lot of land. What's really made her cry over and over again is that nobody even told her that her son was getting married. She keeps telling me that she would have known he was sick, she would have been able to save him, that she should have been there. Honestly, she's right to blame her ex because her own relatives don't talk to her. She doesn't use Facebook and she had a right to know. As for her daughter-in-law, my wife has done nothing but sing her praises. She's studying engineering at the University of Alberta and she is currently pregnant, and that's honestly giving my wife a bit of hope. She said that a piece of her son is still there, and I honestly don't know how she would have been if she wasn't. I know how hard it must be for my wife's daughter-in-law, but I'm glad that they can be there for each other. As for my wife's son, my wife really hasn't shared that much with me. She's just said that he was sad. He kept on apologising for what he was and forgetting things, and that the way he was made her feel like her son was already gone before she made it there. She did tell me that he passed away in her arms while she was praying, so I really hope that means that they were able to reconnect. I don't expect her to share this with me, but I guess that's where my frustration comes from. I've always wanted my wife to have everything she wants, and I know in her heart there's nothing she wanted more than her son back, because he was her heart, and now she can't have that. And it's not like an estranged parent or sibling dying, because he was her son and she made him. She literally made him, and I see her crying that it should have been her, and it honestly makes me angry. All I can do is be there for her, but I feel like I shouldn't have to be because her son shouldn't have had to die so young and so cruelly. So, thanks for listening to my rant. I might come here again if I need to rant. Oh damn, pretty sad ending there, but I'm glad the kid got to see his mum before he went. And yeah, you can really only hope that there was some sort of reconciliation before the end there. Anyway, give me your thoughts down below and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user GanMedi and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad that if his wife censors what I read, I won't visit him anymore? My, 16 male, dad, 40s, parental rights were terminated due to abandonment. He didn't pay child support and didn't contact me for over a year, telling us he didn't want me to see him at his worst, alcoholism. He said he's going to start trying now though. Already started going to alcohol rehab, so my mum started taking me to visit him during the weekends. At first it was going fine, a little bit awkward getting to know each other again. Then my dad's new wife and I had an argument. On that day, Mum had decided that I should spend the night at Dad's place. I brought a book with me. My dad's wife, 28, saw it and told me I should not read that book since the protagonist is bisexual and it pushes LGBT stuff. If it's relevant, it's book 2 of the Trials of Apollo series. I told her she can't dictate what I read since I'm not a kid and she's not my mum, and Dad quickly jumped to her defense. He said she is still his wife, telling me I shouldn't be rude to her in her home. So I told him, fine, I'm not staying then, and I left and went home. Mum said I don't have to go back there if I don't want to, so I told Dad when he called later on that if he doesn't talk to his wife and tell her she can't censor what I read, I won't be returning. He said what I said was threatening him. Wow, really? What a great impression for his stepmom to make on him. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. He was on thin ice and took a hammer to it for his wife. He's shown where his priorities lie. They aren't in a relationship with you. The only reason his wife would know the LGBT themes is if she'd read the book or researched it. I've read the back cover on Goodreads and it doesn't even allude to LGBT. It's more about hyping that old characters from the Percy Jackson verse are coming back and reiterating the premise of the Trials of Apollo series. Not the a-hole. She's not your mum and he lost his legal rights. Don't let him play the victim. This isn't a threat as no harm will come to him regardless of the outcome. His wife is displaying bigoted behaviour. Stick to your guns. All she has to do is say nothing about your book. Should be easy enough. You're 16. If you were 11 and understood the vocabulary in the book, I'd say the same thing. It's a book. No one has the right to put braces on your brain. Not the a-hole. Some 16-year-olds go to college, so yes, you most certainly are entitled to select your own leisure reading material. Catcher in the Rye, Lord of the Flies, and Song of Solomon are typical required reading for high school sophomores. What on earth does your father's wife think you should be reading? Dr. Seuss? Yeah, exactly. This woman seems crazy. I mean, I remember reading adult books by the time I was 12, 13. It doesn't change you. It doesn't make you worse. If anything, it makes you more mature. Anyway, let's go to the updates. Just talked to my dad. He said that his wife was only trying to do what she thought was best for me, and that the only issue is that what she thought is best is different from what I thought is best. My dad said I should take that into consideration, and also humour her by giving up those books, since she would become a new parental figure for me if I keep up the visits. I asked if he expects me to do what she wants, including when I'm not at their house, and he sheepishly said yes, so I told him that I won't be visiting again. That way, I won't have to deal with her. Edit to add, just to make it more clear, they don't intend for it to be a rule at their house. They wanted me to not read books even when I'm not at their place. Jeez, yeah, it's pretty clear that Dad doesn't have much experience with kids. Let's go to another update to this story, but it's posted on a different subreddit. I live with my mum. My dad lost his parental rights due to abandonment. He contacted us after getting sober, and things seemed to be going well, but then his new wife tried to prohibit me from reading books featuring LGBT characters. That was when I decided to not visit their house again so I don't have to follow their rules. This morning I found out that my dad's new wife got pregnant. They asked me to meet them at a cafe, and I decided to go, just to hear what they have to say. It's been 20 days since I last saw my dad. They asked if I would consider helping babysit the kid after he is born. They are thinking of having me over for 3 hours each day when the baby is born, so that they can have their time outside by themselves. When I asked my dad's wife if she would still try to control what I read, she said yes, and that she doesn't want me bringing certain books to their home. I told them that I won't do it then, since they expect me to just sit there doing nothing for 3 hours except watching the kid. Won't even allow me to use TV since she doesn't want anyone else touching their remote. My grandparents said I should be a bit willing to consider the idea since the kid's my half-sibling. And on to the last update. I told it to him straight. I told him he's crazy if he thinks that as a 16-year-old I'll take responsibility for an infant 3 hours a day, not to mention zero pay and having his wife censor my reading materials. Then I told him I hope he's a better dad to this kid than he ever was to me, before blocking him. Boom, mic drop. Jeez. Yeah, there was no way that was ever a fair deal. Like seriously, you can't ask that of someone, let alone a teenager, and genuinely think they would say yes to it. Or maybe they would, I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know. Either way, let's go to our next story. Alrighty, this one was posted by user Sharing an Apartment, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not allowing my boyfriend to have overnight house guests? I am neurodivergent and bipolar, prone to psychosis, and was diagnosed many years ago, long before I met my husband. He's been aware the entire time I've known him, and he knows there are some quirks and eccentricities about me because of my neurodivergence. I'm high-functioning, for lack of a better term, and so my issues may be invisible to many people, but my partner, his family, and my friends and family all know my situation. Specifically, I don't have overnight house guests, and I don't allow guests past midnight unless it's pre-cleared with me. This is because the sounds and noises and interruptions of other people are a lot for me to handle, and I can only handle and mask so much before I'm just completely spent and I eventually lose my temper and filter and either become enraged or just start sobbing or even find myself unable to sleep for days on end and going psychotic because I'm so overstimulated and haven't slept. My husband's mother has never seen me this way and I hope she never does. Losing my temper and filter is not something I want to do around friends and family. I also need 2 to 4 hours to calm my brain down after a lot of socialization before I can go to sleep, hence my midnight cutoff. I don't feel this drained or stressed way around my partner, or he wouldn't be my husband. But everyone but him and my best friend of a decade, yes. My husband moved from his city, which his mother lives in, his father passed long ago, to my city to be with me when we got married. Before he did that, I talked to him about how I can't have overnight house guests. In 2 years of dating, neither of us have had an overnight guest except for each other. He said he understood, and it was no problem. But now, his mother wants to come and visit for a week at Christmas, and she wants to stay with us in the guest room. My partner's office that has a bed in it also. He sleeps in there when I'm having trouble sleeping. This will require my partner to work in the kitchen right beside my office corner, not really a room, causing a ton of noise and disruption, and we'll have another person around all the time draining my energy. Currently our offices are separated. My partner said he agreed with the overnight house guest thing when he assumed I meant our friends. He said he never understood it to mean his mother. I've offered to pay for half a hotel when his mother comes to stay, but he says that isn't the point and she doesn't want to come if she can't stay with us. We live in the city and the hotel is literally 1 block from us. This is not an exaggeration. I've stayed at it before for a week when I was waiting for our apartment to become ready, and it's very classy. Am I the a-hole for insisting his mother stays in a hotel when she can visit so I can stay sane? On to the comments. Not the a-hole, but is he your boyfriend or your husband? The title says boyfriend, but you call him your husband in the post. In any case, the solution is pretty simple. If she insists on staying at your home, you go stay at the hotel. Look, it's not like you're being mean, and it's also not like he doesn't know about your mental health issues. I think he is intentionally obstructionist because he doesn't want a conflict with his mum, or he thinks you will cave in. Don't do it. You have a solution. But honestly, has he even explained your mental health issues to his mum? It sounds like she has no clue. OP replies, husband of about 6 months, lol. I keep calling him my partner or boyfriend still. I'm totally doing the hotel thing. I'm going to talk to him tonight. People have given many helpful suggestions. His mother knows I'm bipolar, but does not know about the psychosis. Almost nobody does. The amount of people that know about the psychosis is 3 total, including my husband. I typed boyfriend again, lol. Best friend and psychiatrist. I'm very private about it because it was the lowest point of my life to be hospitalized for 2 weeks. Alright, let's go straight to an update. Here I am having talked to John and my mother-in-law, and I got a lot of messages asking for an update. I spoke to my husband John last night about the situation regarding his mum staying in a hotel, and I explained that I would pay for and go to a hotel myself, or pay for half of his mother's hotel when she came. John was absolutely aghast. First, he freaked out about me not running the house for the week and having to take over my roles, as I had guessed. John has autism and is very attached to his routines. Here's my role in the house from one of my comments. I do his laundry, taxes, all of the vet runs, all of the groomer runs, all of the grocery runs. I plan all of our doctors, dentist and optometrist appointments. I sent out the Christmas cards. I'm the sole driver in the house and take him to all of his appointments, and I also get all of the car maintenance and washing done myself. I go to the pharmacy and dry cleaner for him. I replace anything that is broken or damaged, his or mine. I plan all of the date nights, all of our anniversaries, all of our vacation and trips. I picked all of the furnishings for our apartment because doing so stressed him out. I do the budgeting, finances, and pay all of the bills with both our money. It's maybe an hour a night for him to cook and clean, maybe 4 times a week. We get our own breakfasts and lunches and eat out 3 times a week, but I spend much more than an hour a day running the rest of the household. So John was already having to make a stretch to his routine to have his mother visit, but to have his mother visit and me be gone, he really didn't like that. Plus he told me he hated the idea of not sleeping in the same bed with me for a week, and that this is a non-starter. So he became amenable to calling his mother, which we were both nervous about because he had talked it up so much. They're from a culture where respecting your parents is very important, and John was extremely afraid of offending his mother. We called her and explained the situation, saying that it's really hard for me to fall asleep unless I'm around him or my BFF, and that's why I had the no house guests rule. We told her there was a place less than a block away that was a lovely 4-star hotel, and we would be happy to pay for it. Well, then his mother started yelling and talking loudly. Not at me though. Best I can remember. "John, you had a fight with her about me staying there when you're happy to pay for me to stay in a 4-star hotel. John, I know you had a fight because you never both call me unless it's a holiday. You're telling me you didn't immediately give me the chance to stay in a 4-star hotel, John? When was the last time I stayed in a 4-star hotel? Let me tell you, the answer is never." So his mum is extremely excited about staying in the 4-star hotel, and now keeps making joking comments about how she might not even see us on the vacation because she'll be at the spa, fancy restaurant, etc. at the hotel. John is happy as pie about all of this because I'm happy, and his mum is really happy. He doesn't care at all that she isn't staying with us, only that she wasn't offended by the hotel idea. Thanks to everyone that told me to respect my boundaries. All the best. There you go. All's well that ends well. Yeah, I've found in situations like that, as long as you're dealing with reasonable people, and it sounds like Opie's mother-in-law is, then it's never as bad as you think it might be in your head. My mum neglected me and ditched me for her new family, so I decided to ditch her as well. A little background on myself. I'm male 19. I was born when my mum was 17 and my dad was 19. My dad has been in prison the majority of my life for non-violent drug charges. My mum got married when I was 10 to my stepdad. Just to clarify, my mum and dad were never married. They dated each other and eventually hooked up and had me. My problems with my mum started when she got pregnant with my sister, and then after she had my sister, she got pregnant again and had my brother, and I became like a ghost. She hardly paid attention to me. She neglected me emotionally, and I felt like I was unwanted in her life. I didn't matter anymore. As I grew up, I continued to try to get her to talk to me, but she was always busy with my brother and sister, every family activity they did together, and she always excluded me. It was always my stepdad and mum and my siblings, except for me, like I wasn't part of the family. This is how I came to my conclusion that my mum hates me or she dislikes me. As I mentioned before, I have 2 younger siblings, aged 4 and 9. One day, my mum comes into my room. She's all dressed up and racing around, and I ask if she's going somewhere. She tells me no, and I go back to playing on my computer. No later than 15 minutes, I hear the garage door go up, so I race downstairs thinking, what the heck? Sure enough, my mum, stepdad, and my sister and brother are all dressed up and in the truck, and I'm standing outside, feeling really uncomfortable. The look she gave me as she jumped into the truck made me feel like I was interrupting her. There wasn't any, "Oh yeah, sorry." It was just a look of absolute disgust. I don't cry very easily, but something about the whole thing really got to me, and I went back inside and cried a bit, but then got over it. It wasn't the first time. She texts me 10 minutes later telling me they're just going to the park. I don't respond because I would have just worked myself up again. Fast forward, they get home. I was eating dinner, and my 9-year-old sister rushes in after my mum, super excited to tell me about everything they'd done. They hadn't gone to the park. My mum had lied to me, saying they went to the park when they'd actually gone to Dave & Buster's. They also went to get milkshakes and went shopping. I was visibly crushed by it, and my little sister noticed I'd gotten upset. I could tell my mum was about to start making excuses and making the circumstances my fault, so to keep my little sister and brother from seeing that, I excused myself to my room quietly. It super sucks. I've been trying so hard to be a good son despite the selfishness of my mother and her chaotically selfish ways have on me, but once I realised that crap isn't normal, I started questioning our relationship. I didn't see any safe way out without ending up on the streets broke, 19 years old and unemployed by the way. So I joined the army. It was spur of the moment, and she still doesn't know. I can handle it, and it's the first decision I've actually made on my own. I cannot tell you how excited I am for BCT soon. Sorry everyone, I just wanted to get this off my chest and share my story. Edit. I would like people to know that I don't hate my brother and sister. I like my brother and sister. They also like me. I have good memories of spending time with them. At this point, they're the only thing that I consider family, and I hope they understand why I moved away, in hope that when I come back from the army, they'll still see me as their big brother. I would also like people to know that my grandparents from my mum's side of the family passed away already, and my grandparents from my biological dad's side of the family also passed away. My grandmother passed away 2 years after I was born, and my grandfather passed away when my dad was 15 years old. My biological dad is the only child they had. My mum only has one sister, and she's married with 3 kids. Her kids are around the same age as me, and she and her husband live paycheck to paycheck, and I don't want to be a burden to them. That's why I never went to live with them. I'll keep you guys updated, but for now that's all. I've seen some of the comments below. Thank you everyone for the love and support. Again, thank you all. Okay, let's look at those comments. Never look back. Best of luck. Hope you find happiness in your life. You know what, OP? You are going to be okay. Maybe things are not supposed to be like this, I know, but you sound like a good person. Don't let your mother's stupidity turn you bitter or angry at the world or at her. Be better than her. We always have this attachment to our parents, even when they don't deserve us. You are going to be okay. Make a good life for yourself, and if you ever become a parent, pour all your love on them. Sending you a big hug. You are going to be okay. I wish you all the best. Your birth giver is a disappointment and should be left behind. Make sure you take all your personal papers with you. Air Force guy here. Joining the military is 100% the best decision I ever made, and I didn't have a broken family. Work hard, use your benefits, and grow your future. Tap into tuition assistance, get credentials, save money, and lean into your career. I'm at 14 years and can retire in 6. If my family weren't so fatigued from moving all the time, I'd stay for another 30. If you ever need direction or mentoring, feel free to hit me up. Okay, on to an update. Not much has happened. I've been busy moving my stuff out. You guys told me not to say anything to her about me leaving, but I find that really hard to do because my sister is outspoken. Everything she hears and sees, she tells. So I decided to tell my sister I'll be leaving for a job that I was offered, and I'm going to tell my mum the same thing if she asks. If you guys have any better suggestions or ideas on how to deal with these situations, I'm all ears. My mum didn't see me moving my stuff out, but she did notice some of my things missing and asked about them. I told her I sold some of my things to make some quick cash. I just got a little bit left to move out and I'll be done moving my things. Just in case you all were wondering where I left my stuff, I asked a friend if I can leave my stuff at her house and she said yes. Some of you are probably wondering when I'm leaving for the army. It's on the 23rd, this Friday. Some of you also ask why the army and not the Navy or Marines or Air Force. My friend who let me leave my things at her house has a grandpa who was in the army and he convinced me to join the army. But if things don't work out for myself in the army, I'm going to join the Navy or Air Force or Marines. Thanks everyone, I'll keep you updated. Well, on to another update. Today my biological dad called me and said that he got out of prison 2 weeks ago. He's living in his parents' house. My grandparents, when they passed away, they left their house to my dad. So I went to see him. We had a good conversation and he apologised for not being there for me. I told him if he's truly sorry for not being there for me, he should make up for it by being there for me now. He told me he was going to try his best to be there for me and that he got a job in construction. I told him I was going to the army and he broke down in tears and told me he was proud of me. I couldn't help it, I cried as well, and it was a very emotional moment. I told him because he hasn't been there all my life, I'm not going to call him Dad just because he's my biological dad. I'm going to call him by his name, and if he wants me to call him Dad, he has to earn it. He told me that's fine. I plan on going back tomorrow and be there for a while with him. Of course it's going to be after he gets out of work. Oh great, lose one thing, gain another. Let's hope that OP can create a good relationship with his father. On to another update. Hello everyone. This is going to be my last post for a while. I'm already ready to go. I'm here in my biological father's house. My mum doesn't know I'm leaving for the army. The only thing she knows is that I moved out of her house and I'm staying with my biological father. I left a note telling her everything about how she has treated me, except for the fact that I'm going to the army. I'm going to call an Uber to take me to the station where I'm going to get picked up by a bus and then taken to the army. My biological dad is paying for the Uber, in case you all are wondering. Also, I'd like people to know that I forgave my bio dad for not being there for me, but I also told him that just because I forgave him doesn't mean I'm going to call him Dad. He has to earn it. So I started calling him by his first name, Matthew. Yes, that's his real name. I could see it in his eyes when I called him by his first name that he was hurt by it, but he accepted the fact that he wasn't there for me growing up. And these are the consequences. But I also told him I'd give him an opportunity to redeem himself. Let's see if he really is sorry and regrets not being there for me. I don't know if my mum has read the letter because I'm not there to see her reaction. I did talk to my sister who's 10 years old about me moving out because I got a job and she was sad, but she said, "Are you going to come visit us?" And I told her yes, when I have the time. She was 9 before, but she's now 10 this past weekend, and it was her birthday. My little brother is still too young to understand things, so I didn't tell him anything. He's only 4 after all. That's all for now. Thank you guys for everything. Thanks for listening to my pathetic life. I'll make sure to keep you guys updated if I have time to post. On to another update. Hello everyone. It's been a while since I posted. Sorry for not updating you guys sooner. Well, I did go to the army and everything worked out good. But I will say, those 10 weeks were brutal. It was hell. I couldn't even smile because the drill sergeant would get in my face. Anyway, back to the update. I gave my previous phone to my dad to give to my mum so she can cancel the phone service. I decided to get a new phone whenever I get the time to buy a new one. I'm doing good. I haven't heard anything from my mum. So is it safe to assume she doesn't care at all? Oh well. I did make new friends here, as some of you told me. It's been good. I also got my own place and I have a date tomorrow. She's someone I met in the park the other day. She's a freshman in college trying to get her degree in teaching. Nothing serious right now. We're just going out as friends, trying to get to know each other. I'm also seeing a therapist. It has helped a lot. Anyway, that's about it for now. I'll update you guys if anything else happens. Edit. I forgot to mention, my friend and her grandpa were at my graduation, so I wasn't completely alone. I know some of you asked for my address and what state I live in, and expressed the desire to come cheer for me, but I didn't really feel comfortable giving you guys my location. Not because you guys are strangers, which you are, but because you guys already have your own personal life to live. I didn't want to bother you guys with anything else anymore. You guys have been a big help just by showing love and support, and giving me confidence. Okay guys, and that's the last update so far. Yeah, pretty good ending there. I feel like OP really took matters into his own hands and took responsibility, and he should be proud of that. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Let me know down below. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Okie dokie, this next one was written on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Lively Hobbit, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to smile at someone who told me I should smile more? This interaction took place a couple of months ago, around late July or early August 2023, and it took place in one of those stores where everything is super cheap. Think Dollar Tree, Dollar Store, etc. I, 24 female, had gone with my brother, 21, and my mother, early 50s, to grab some cheap snacks. On that day, I was wearing a baseball cap with the name and logo of my grad school on it. After going through the store and grabbing what we wanted, we got in line to check out. The cashier was a man, maybe in his 40s or 50s. Let's call him Bill. When we got to the front of the line, the three of us checked out separately, and I went last. My mum and brother stood a couple of feet away to wait for me, while Bill was ringing me up. After some small talk, Bill looked up and noticed my hat. Grad school's name, huh? I nodded, and he asked, You or that guy? And nodded over towards my brother. I told him that I was the one in grad school, and he goes back to ringing up my items. After a few seconds, he looks back up and stares at me. The conversation then went as follows. Bill, you know, you're not going to get very far in life if you can't smile at people. Me, I'm sorry? I hadn't done anything that would have been rude or off-putting, at least not that I'm aware of. Bill, shrugging. Ladies don't get paid the big bucks if they can't be nice. Women have to be nice to be successful. Me, annoyed and deadpan. Not in my experience. Bill. Oh, really? You sure about that? Yep, pretty sure. Bill, shaking his head. Sorry, you're going to have to smile more often if you want to succeed in life, sweetie. And me, cutting him off. Don't call me sweetie. My annoyance has become frustration at this point. Bill, looking surprised. Hey now, I'm just trying to help you. Me. I'm good, thanks. Bill. All I said was that you should smile more often. Come on, smile for me. Again, I'm good, thanks. I'll smile when I feel like it. When we got outside, I told my mother and brother what Bill had said. They both laughed at me and said I should have just gone with it. Ever since then, they've continued to bring up this situation with me and my friends and family, saying things like, Don't tell OP to smile, she'll snap at you. Or, What about this time, OP? Do you feel like smiling now? I get more and more annoyed every time they bring it up, and every time I tell them to stop, they tell me to lighten up. I've told some of my friends, and they agree with me, but my family thinks I'm an a-hole for not just going along with what Bill said. I don't think I was an a-hole for refusing to smile, but I'm wondering if I should have just gone with it. Yeah, because OP's really going to take advice on being successful from a 40 or 50-year-old cashier. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. Bill has some very outdated ideas. Come on, smile for me is very dance monkey dance. And be pretty, woman, that's your job. You do you, OP. It's probably true that friendly people and people who are perceived to be pretty or handsome by societal norms probably do better in life, but to be honest, it's not his business and you don't have to perform for him. Not the a-hole. You should have reported the cashier to the manager for his inappropriate comments. Your mother and brother have crossed the line into bullying. Ew, mansplaining. An old man trying to tell you, a young woman, how to be successful? Not the a-hole. This man should have held his unasked for, unwarranted misogynistic advice to his frickin' self. You don't need that from anyone. Not the a-hole. From your subject line alone, I knew that you were female and the other person was a male older than you. This is old-fashioned sexism, and your mother and brother are jerks for perpetuating it rather than having your back. Okay, on to an update. Update for a post I made here a couple of days ago. I know everyone says this on their update posts, but wow, I did not expect to get so many responses to my original post. Thank you to everyone who took the time to hear me out and share your opinions and experiences. I know the "you should smile more" thing for women isn't new, but reading all of your comments about your experiences with the similar remarks really hammered it home to me. This wasn't okay, and I don't have to put up with those comments from my family. The day after I made the original post, I decided to call my mum and talk to her about the situation. A lot of you said that what she and my brother were doing was essentially bullying, and I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. When I told her about how much her comments annoyed and hurt me, she was surprised at first. She told me that she had no idea that the comments bothered me that much and that she hadn't thought about how misogynistic they were. She told me that she's received comments like, "you should smile more," from creepy men for years, and that she just treated it as part of life. The fact that she just dealt with it for years made me kinda sad, and while it doesn't excuse her comments, it does kinda help me understand why she didn't see a problem with them. She apologized to me and told me that she would stop, and I'm willing to believe her this time. Also, I'm going home for Thanksgiving next week, and I'm going to see most of the other people who have been making these comments to me. Your comments have given me the courage to stand up for myself, and I plan to put a stop to those comments. If they continue to give me a hard time for it, I'll just send them the link to the original post so they can see that hundreds of people on here are nicer to me than they are. To the people who suggested that I contact the manager, supervisor or corporate for the store, I wanted to let you know that I did just that. I hadn't thought about it before, and I did that earlier today. As it turns out, Bill was actually let go from his position about a month ago. Apparently I wasn't the only person he made these kind of comments to. Even though I played no part in that decision, it felt like an appropriate conclusion to the situation, and I figured you deserved to know. Thank you so much for all your kind words in the comments and messages. I haven't had time to respond to all of your comments, but I promise I've read every single one, and they definitely made me smile for a good reason. You've renewed my faith in humanity, and I feel like I just gained a few hundred new friends. I hope you all have an amazing day. Oh well, there you go guys, great ending there for OP. And yeah, I don't think any of us are surprised that Bill was let go from his job. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll jump to our next story. Okay, we're staying with the same subreddit. This one was written by user Fatal Foxtrot, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for not changing my dog's name when my new neighbour's child had the same name? I, 36 male, am the owner of a Great Pyrenees, an Australian cattle dog mix named Charlotte, 6 female. I live in a lower middle class suburb in an unspecified United State. I've lived here for about a year now, and I let Charlotte out to go potty roughly 6 or so times a day. It's always the same routine. I open the back door, Charlotte runs outside to pee, and patrol the yard. Apparently it's a Pyrenees thing, and doesn't typically come bounding back to the door until I poke my head out and call her name. About a week or two ago, maybe longer if I didn't notice, new neighbours moved in across my back alley. I had no intentions of interacting with them whatsoever, like ever, except today when I was executing the last step of Charlotte's aforementioned potty protocol. I stuck my head out and called her name, but this time, alongside the familiar sounds of my dog galloping up the porch steps, was an adult human voice shouting something along the lines of, "Why are you calling my daughter?" At first I thought it might just be my new neighbours getting into a spat, until a couple minutes later I heard pounding on my front door. I opened the door to an angry man about twice my size, glaring me down. He said something like, "Why the F are you calling my daughter into your house?" And I responded, "Your daughter's name is Charlotte?" And he kinda just kept glaring at me. In the absence of a response, I followed up with, "Charlotte is my dog's name, dude." And he rolled his eyes at me and said I better change my dog's name because he doesn't want his daughter to getting confused and running into my house. I told him that's not going to happen because not only did my dog have the name first, we also lived here first. Plus I don't like strangers making demands of me before even attempting to be polite. What I didn't say, but really wanted to say, is that teaching his child stranger danger is his responsibility, not mine. He called me stupid and said that a human child obviously has priority over a dog for a name. I shut the door in his face and stared at him through the peephole for a moment before he eventually walked back to his house. This last potty break, I went out with Charlotte and stayed in the yard with her until she finished her business. But this guy just kind of stood in his yard with his arms crossed and glared at me the entire time. Like seriously? I mean, Charlotte the dog is 6 and the kid's 2, so yeah, I think Charlotte the dog has got first dibs. What about you guys? Would you be willing to change or would you hold your ground? I think I'd be willing to hold my ground on this one. Let me know. My best friend's mistress doesn't know that he is actually broke. My wife's reaction to the whole thing really bummed me out. My, male 41, best friend Jack, 41, since kindergarten, cheated on his wife Anna, 39, with a girl half of his age, Max, female 25. Anna is one of the best human beings I've ever met. She's very beautiful, kind and caring. She's very successful too. When Jack met her, he was so in love that he wrote an ironclad prenup just to be with her. In other words, Jack has nothing to his name. He met Max on a work trip and it was then that he cheated on Anna. The affair lasted for 2 months until Max made an ultimatum, to leave his wife for her. Jack refused and tried to end the affair, so Max told Anna everything. This broke Anna beyond repair, and she told Jack that she couldn't forgive him. They're in the process of divorcing now, and Jack lives in a small studio apartment near his work. After Jack lost hope to reconciliation with Anna, he started seeing Max again. They're now officially dating. My wife, Pat, 32, knows all these details. She's a more forgiving and understanding person than I am, and I love that about her. She's way more tolerant because I am Team Anna, and there's nothing Jack can say to make me change my opinion. Now everything is settled, my wife said that she wanted to invite Jack and his new girlfriend to our place. I was very reluctant at first, but my wife insisted that my friendship with Jack is important. We are basically brothers, and we should accept people we love even with their flaws. It made sense, and I trust my wife to always make sense. The dinner was awkward. I couldn't see past these two cheaters. Jack pretending to be happy, and Max overexcited over the fact that she won this prize named Jack. I understood then that things won't be the same, but my wife was right. I love Jack, and that's the most important thing now. Max talked about her upbringing and the hard life she had growing up. She talked about her future with Jack and all the fun they would have. It dawned on me that she didn't know they couldn't do half of what she's dreaming of with Jack's salary. It dawned on me why she chose him and why she was so willing to hurt an innocent woman that way. She had learned to know the Jack who lived in fancy hotels and drove a fancy car. When I asked her about their living arrangements, Max said that Jack temporarily is living in a studio apartment until the divorce is settled. Max talked about what she would do to their place, renovating and redecorating. The apartment that Anna bought for her family with her hard-earned money. The one she decorated with her husband from scratch to make it their home. I remember how happy and full of dreams she was when she found her dream home. To hear Max sitting there talking about how she would use money she'd never earned to redecorate a home she wasn't entitled to, making fun of another woman's taste and style, it brought tears to my eyes. Yes, men can get emotional too. Jack has not told Max the truth. When they left, Pat and I started discussing our dear friends. I was very surprised when Pat angrily told me that I was cruel and callous for not wanting to enlighten Max about their new situation. My wife thought that Max had a tough life and she deserved to have a good life now. I was taken aback with my wife's logic. I told my wife that I'll not tell Max anything, but that if she wanted, then be my guest. But now I don't understand my wife, and I'm turned off by her morals. Anna was a great friend to my wife, but my wife doesn't seem to give a rat's ass about her. My wife then got very angry and accused me of caring too much about Anna. That's when I ended the discussion because I realised that this was going below the belt. Yeah, honestly, I don't really see a good outcome here. It's either you wait and then Max ultimately finds out that Jack isn't the moneybag she thought he was, or someone tells Max the truth and then the relationship will probably inevitably end anyway. I don't know, let's go to the comments. Max will discover Jack is not wealthy. If she cares for him as a person, she will accept it. If she is a gold digger, he will be left in a ditch. I think turnabout is fair play. Invite Anna over for an evening. Okay, after reading all this in your replies, I kinda get it. Your wife had a hard life and likely sees a lot of herself in Max. That is something you can talk to her about. She isn't Max and she probably shouldn't compare herself to someone who just broke up a marriage. Max and Jack are really slimy people. Not sure why you and your wife would want to remain good friends with them. Might be time to drift apart from Jack. You need to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with your wife and find out why she feels this way. Is she jealous of Anna or attracted to your best friend, and that's why she's okay with him not being with Anna and wants you to tell Max that your best friend is broke? Morally, this could be a deal breaker for you because her reaction to this makes no sense and you need to get to the bottom of this. Yeah, I think my previous comment maybe missed the mark. I think the problem here with OP is the girlfriend. And yeah, I agree, he needs to have a good chat with her. Righto, on to an update. This is so convoluted, but I'll try my best to make it make sense. Be patient with me. About my wife Pat. Sometimes you think that you know the person you fell in love with and married, but then something serious happens and your relationship stands in a trial, something divisive, and you find yourself standing on the opposite sides. You start wondering about the person you chose to create a life with and wonder why you love them when they're so different from you. You realise that you probably love the version of them that you created in your head. We had a lot of discussions, Pat and I, about how I felt about her new friendship with Jack and Max, and she ignored my disdain for what they've done. I understand that people fall in and out of love and they move on, but then other people in their surroundings also should have feelings or opinions about these decisions. Nobody is right or wrong. Pat's approach was very non-judgmental, which is obviously a very admirable thing, but I found myself on the opposite side. While Pat insisted on inviting Jack and Max, forming new friendships with them, the more I hung out with my former, best friend and his mistress, the more I disliked them, and realised they're not the kind of people I want in my life, and by extension, the more I disliked Pat. Our disagreements got more intense and more frequent. I told Pat that this wasn't working for me anymore, and she accused me of choosing a pathetic loser over our marriage. Of course, she is entitled to believe whatever she wants. That was not my reason, according to me, and the truth is probably something in between. About Jack and Max. Pat told Max that Jack is actually not the one with the money like he'd been pretending, and while he is probably not going to be totally empty-handed in this divorce settlement, it won't be the amount that would allow all the dreams and plans she's made, especially when Anna is getting full custody. This put a big wedge between Jack and Max, and they've been off again and on again since the revelation. Jack has expressed a lot of disgust and repulsion towards Max, so I really don't understand this relationship and why these two miserable people stay together, nor do I want to understand. They disgust me and I'm done with them. About Anna. When she heard about my separation from my wife, she reached out to both of us. She said that since she's gone through something similar, she wanted to offer support and love. She said that she knew what we were going through. We started talking on the phone and texting. Now almost daily, I've met up with her on a few occasions for dinners. I find myself thinking about her all the time, and when I wake up in the morning, I go directly to my phone to see if she sent me a good morning text, and I know my day will be just fine when I find one. Not sure if this is love or if I'm falling for her. Not sure if pursuing anything with her is wise. I've not told anyone about these feelings, and I'm not sure I ever will. I just know that I love having her in my life. She's a great friend, and maybe I shouldn't ruin this beautiful friendship with this beautiful woman because of some desires. Phew, yeah, definitely sounds like he's falling for her. And why wouldn't you? She sounds great, especially when compared to the other people in his life right now. Let's go to some more comments. I remember your first post, and I also remember how I didn't like how your wife responded to the whole cheating and becoming friends with the mistress as you painted it. So before you pull the trigger on possibly blowing up 2 friendships going further, if that's what Anna wants, Make sure you're divorced first. But other than that, live your life how you want. I'll probably get downvoted. You only live once. As far as your former friend, misery loves company. Those two deserve each other. OP replies, "That's what I'm planning to do. I have no plans on confessing to Anna, and I honestly don't even know what she feels about me. What I know is that I'm glad that we're friends again, and I think she is too." Yeah, I don't know why everyone's mad. Your wife was basically supporting cheating. You're not even cheating. You separated, and a friendship bloomed because of it. Birds of a feather flock together. AKA, if my partner wanted to be friends with a cheater and their mistress, I'd assume they'd want a mistress of their own. OP replies, "Not even supporting cheating. Totally ignoring and dismissing my feelings that I didn't want to hang out with Jack and Max. It became like a statement from her part that these people are in our lives. I never took any contact with Anna because I knew my wife didn't want that. One simple no was enough. She didn't spare me the same decency. Anyway." And now for one last comment from OP. "The thing is, Jack changed a whole lot too. It wasn't only the questionable morality of having an affair, and I don't know if he'd always been this way, but never needed to show his true colours because he was married to a brilliant woman who made him a better man, or that in fact his affair did change him. He is moronic, bitter, and angry all the time, so very disrespectful of everything and everyone. He called Anna, the mother of his children, a hoe, and even his new girlfriend, he calls her a disgusting gold digger, homewrecker, loser, and ugly, sometimes to her face, in front of us, making me nauseated and very uncomfortable. He hasn't seen his children since Anna made it clear that they would never go back together, like their purpose is done. Never once did he say he misses his children. Hell, even I missed them greatly. And Pat has seen all these changes, and it doesn't bother her, not even a little. What she told me was that he will have more children with his new girlfriend. I remember the fight we had after this conversation. I never really recovered from it. Is it true what they say, that people show their true colours when times are bad?" Okay guys, and that's the end of that one for now. Geez, yeah, what a question to end on. And I think most people would be lying if they said they didn't think there was an element of truth in that statement. I think deep down, OP knows what he wants. He's just got to stand up and do it. And I think that might take a little bit of time, and that's okay. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Let me know down below. Either way, let's move on to our next story. Okay, this next one was written on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for not letting my mother-in-law and father-in-law help me with the baby after their reaction to me being injured? I, 21 female, have a 7-month-old son with my boyfriend. My family lives abroad and are coming over to stay and help at Christmas time. For now, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, 60s, Deborah and Bob, are helping me with household stuff and the baby. So far, we haven't had any real issues, and they've been a massive help. About 3 weeks ago, I fell down the stairs. I wasn't holding the baby, and the baby was safe. However, instead of helping me, Deborah and Bob both jumped to comfort the baby, who was crying, and left me at the bottom of the stairs. My legs were fine, but I was wobbly because of shock, and asked one of them to help me up. After nearly 10 whole minutes of being ignored, I managed to stand up on my own and hobble through to the living room. I sit down and Deborah says, 'What's happened to you? Are you okay?' I'll admit, I saw red. I just said, 'I fell down the stairs. Didn't you hear me calling for your help?' Deborah's eyes widened and she said she was too busy fussing over the baby. After an hour, my arm was swelling up and I was taken to hospital. Luckily, it was nothing serious and recovery time would be quick. After my boyfriend got home and his parents left, I told him I no longer want their help after today's events. I can manage on my own, even though it'll be hard. He was taken aback and said they've done a lot for us. I said I appreciated it all, but they ignored me crying and calling them for 10 minutes after I fell down the stairs. They don't care about me, only the baby, and I was embarrassed I didn't see it sooner. He called his parents to let them know we won't need their help anymore, and his dad said, 'Is it about today?' We really didn't hear her. My boyfriend just told them that they're invited to Sunday roast this week, and that's all. I could tell he was not happy about my decision, but he said he went along with it because I'm the mother. Fast forward to Sunday, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are guests as well. Sister-in-law has a 3-year-old and is totally on my side, but brother-in-law is not. He told me to be grateful for his parents' support, as they're significantly more well off than my parents are, and paid for many newborn and infant expenses, and plan to pay for many more as the baby grows. Since then, Deborah keeps calling, asking if we need any help, and says she feels awful not seeing the both of you, and that she misses the baby. Am I the a-hole for not wanting them helping me in my day-to-day life? Edit. Was the baby crying loudly enough that there was a possibility they didn't hear me? No way. The baby stopped crying after 10 seconds and the stairs are like 2 meters from the living room. There is absolutely zero way they couldn't have heard me. 1. The scream as I fell. 2. The general noise of someone falling, including books falling and wall plates breaking. And 3. Me crying and shouting for help. I fell at the top of the stairs and fell all the way down. This wasn't a missed step and a bum shuffle down that hurt my pelvic bone. I fully fell down the stairs and cracked the banister. No way they didn't hear. The baby also started crying after the initial smack after I hit the ground. Sheesh, pretty scary to think if Opie was seriously injured, like she had a spinal or a neck injury and the parents just didn't care. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole for being a little bit bitter about that. On to the comments. Not the a-hole. You are the only one who knows the layout of your home, the time frame of the crying and the noise, and how everyone reacted. I can't imagine that upon hearing thumps and screams they would rush to a baby who was fine, and for the next 10 minutes they didn't bother to call out for you or to investigate where the noise came from. While they may not have intentionally ignored you, they displayed a lack of care for you, and weirdly for themselves. If I hear a big noise, I'm looking around, and I'm certainly yelling out for anyone else who would be home, both to make sure they're okay, but also to make sure we aren't being robbed or something is wrong. My dad drops a pot on the floor once a day, and we all still yell, "You okay?" even though we know exactly what the man did. And you know what? It doesn't matter if they want to help or if they've given you a ton of money and stuff. You aren't going no contact with them and you aren't keeping them from the baby, you just don't want them around every day. Your feelings are hurt and you don't want to rely on them in the same way. I might agree with your brother-in-law if you were fully not speaking to them, but you're just scaling back their involvement, and that's fine. OP replies, "Thank you, you worded my feelings on the situation perfectly. Maybe it's my mum's senses, but I heard my boyfriend drop a shoe once, and I called up to him to make sure he was okay. I genuinely cannot fathom how you don't hear all the noise, or even check where the mother is." What strange behaviour on their part. Info, have there been signs that they hate you or are deranged? OP replies, "There have been instances where they've forgotten what I've asked them. For example, I asked Bob for some cans of soup and pasta, etc., just so long as he didn't get this one brand of mac and cheese as it makes me gag, and he returned with the mac and cheese. It even said on the list, 'No mac and cheese, I will throw up.'" Yeah, look, in some scenarios, negligence can be just as dangerous as malicious intent. Let's go to an update. A few more weeks went by of selective visits from my in-laws. I read a lot of comments speculating on why they didn't hear me or check on me, but ultimately I needed my space. Regardless of the reason, they didn't seem like responsible babysitters. I want to make it clear that I never intended to go no contact or even low contact. I just didn't feel comfortable with them helping out. That seemed to be a point of contention in my original. They became increasingly more worried about the baby, and I turned to my sister-in-law, Fiona, 30s, for advice, as I felt she was the only one who understood me. She told me that when her daughter was an infant, the in-laws were pretty hands-on too, but only with the baby. It was like she wasn't there. She told me a story where she straight up went and stood in the garden for 30 minutes, and they didn't notice she'd gone. They were only there for the baby. She said that they were luckier because they paid for some postpartum stuff for me, but for Fiona, it was just stuff for the baby, which was accepted and she was grateful, but she was completely ignored by them. She said by her daughter's 3rd birthday, they started to taper off, mainly because my son was born. She is still mostly ignored by them though. Things started to click. It became clear that they just want a baby to fuss over and the mother doesn't really matter to them. It didn't truly explain the logistics of their reaction to my accident, but a lot of things have made sense. I told my boyfriend and we had a big discussion about boundaries. Fiona also asked to come along for moral support and to speak her piece. My boyfriend always had a hard time saying no to people and keeping boundaries, but we've agreed to fully commit. We invited the in-laws over to discuss some stuff. I told them that I felt confused and upset by their reaction. I explained what Fiona had told me and how it's not okay for them to ignore the mothers, and they shouldn't do it to my other brother-in-law's girlfriend if they decide to have kids. Fiona also said her piece and stuck up for me when mother-in-law and father-in-law tried to interrupt or twist the truth. Mother-in-law was clearly very uncomfortable and kept trying to interject with her side whilst we were talking, but she eventually listened to us. She told us her side. Apparently she was neglected by father-in-law's side of the family and that they'd hated her for being poor. Father-in-law is old money. Mother-in-law grew up in a pit village. She also said she grew up with 5 younger brothers and took care of them all and never learnt how to communicate with other women, as she'd never gotten a good education or had friends because she was a caretaker. Obviously, I was extremely sympathetic to all of this. My boyfriend had briefly mentioned that mother-in-law was abused by her own parents, but never went into detail. I then asked them both about the stair incident. Mother-in-law said she didn't care about it in the moment and assumed I'd be fine because if I was crying, I was alive. I was taken back by her response. It honestly took everything in me not to storm off. My boyfriend told her that that was a callous answer and not all problems, specifically medical, are immediately present, and how I still had to go to hospital afterwards due to an injury. Father-in-law stopped him and said they thought the baby had fell out of the crib and had fallen over, which is why they went to him after he started crying. I said I understood that, but it would take maybe 10 seconds to check and see he was okay. What were they doing for the other 10 minutes? Unfortunately, we didn't really get anywhere regarding the stairs incident. They both believe they didn't do much wrong, as most mothers don't have a support system like us. I told them that I'm not comfortable with them taking care of the baby if they can't understand why what they did was upsetting and wrong. On the positive side, I guess I now understand mother-in-law's motivations a bit more. It explains a lot about her character. We're not going no contact or low contact at all, and they can still come over for visits, but I've told my boyfriend he also needs to be there as they seem to listen to him and not me. So that's the update. Thank you for reading and giving advice. Okay folks, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, I think the mother-in-law's background does give a bit of insight into her character, but still, I'm not sure it excuses that situation completely. What do you guys think? Let me know. My best friend is too handsy with my boyfriend, and I think it's inappropriate. I know I should be careful calling someone best friend in a post like this, but I don't know how else to call Jessie. Our parents are great friends, so we grew up together, and she kinda had my back in high school. Long story short, on the teenager food chain, she was on top, and I should be on the bottom, but nobody messed with me because I was Jessie's friend. Jessie is one of those people who require attention. I never minded though, nobody is perfect, right? But now that I have my first real boyfriend, she doesn't know how to behave. Every time we are together, she's really handsy, always touching his arms, running fingers through his hair, complimenting him, and now she even started with the prank spankings on the butt, you know? I just feel really uncomfortable with it. Maybe it's normal. I mean, Jessie has a lot of guy friends, so maybe this is okay. My boyfriend never thought much of it either. Am I just overreacting? She's super pretty, so maybe I'm just jealous. Anyway, yesterday something really threw me off. Boyfriend had to do some work and I had a book thing, hobby, so we decided to meet later at a friend's house. They were getting together to drink and so on. Boyfriend finishes work early, calls me, but I don't really need him to come over to the book thing. I know he doesn't like it, so I just tell him to go to the friend's house. Then I start getting texts from Jessie, all like, "Girl, you gotta come to this party now. Your boyfriend is wasted, lol. Lol, we're so drunk, you need to come and stop us. I can't behave myself if you don't get here soon," and so on. The book thing took longer than I thought and I was just getting madder and madder, but I'm a very non-confrontational person, so I deal with it. I call boyfriend when it's over because I don't feel like going to this party anymore, but I was his ride, so I ask him if he needs me to come pick him up. He says, sure. I get there and don't even go inside. I'm ready to release the hounds of hell on him, but he gets in my car and he is stone cold sober. I ask him if he was drinking and then show him Jessie's texts. He gets super upset and says she was lying. He wasn't even hanging directly with her, but catching up with a friend who just came back to town. He says I should have texted him letting him know what she was saying so he could confront her about it, since you don't ever seem to be able to get that girl some boundaries. His words. Now I'm thinking maybe I should talk to Jessie, but maybe she was just drunk and annoying me because she wanted me there. I don't know. I mean, this girl was really nice to me growing up when she could have been a B. I don't know how she behaves around him, but at the same time, I don't want it to look like I don't trust her. Is there a polite way of going about it? Or maybe I should wait and see if this happens again. Am I overreacting? This is interesting. Yeah, for me, it definitely needs a chat. But I'm thinking maybe Jessie is doing this so that Opie breaks up with her boyfriend so she gets her friend back, or something like that. Or maybe she's just that kind of person. I mean, we all know the type, right? Let's go to the comments. Quote, since you don't seem to be able to give that girl some boundaries. Sounds like maybe he does mind what she does. Time to clear the air. Tell boyfriend to let her know the spanking and hair touch need to stop. You two need to be on the same page. Then go to Jessie. Jessie, you are my best friend and we have a lot of good history together. We are both growing and changing, and our ideas and beliefs are changing too. I'm starting to realize that I no longer want my best friend to spank my boyfriend or run her hands through his hair or up and down his arms. It's just not me anymore. I know you respect me too much to continue doing something that I no longer am okay with, so I wanted to make sure and tell you right away. Then wait and see if she continues the behaviour. If she tried to flip it to jealous, flip it back to, no Jessie, this is about respect and about my personal beliefs of what is okay in a relationship. The way you talk about Jessie sounds like you feel like you owe her something because she wasn't mean to you when she could have been. You don't owe her anything. Tell her how you feel. You should definitely talk to her. Maybe she did just want you at the party, but lying about your boyfriend is a weird way to do it, especially implying that she wanted to be with your boyfriend. That's very inappropriate, along with her wandering hands. Yeah, 100%. And I think that comment about OP saying that she feels like she owes Jessie because she wasn't mean to her is spot on. Like, I thought that was weird when I read it in the original post. Okay, let's jump to the first update. It's titled, So my best friend says I owe her everything I have, including my boyfriend. Yesterday I posted here about how my best friend Jessie is a bit handsy with my boyfriend and it makes me feel uncomfortable. TLDR, she touches him a lot and sent me inappropriate messages when she was at a party with him. I'm very thankful to all those who commented, especially the ones who encouraged me to say something and whatnot. I don't like arguments, so those were very important to me. Thank you. Last night we were alone because she wanted me to help her choose clothes for an event. I was at her place, so I thought I should say something. I wanted to say something. I was very polite and just said that I knew she meant no harm, but I didn't feel good about it. So I asked her if she could tone it down. I should have said stop, but I guess I'm weak. She didn't really say anything mean, but her attitude was a bit off, I think. She was looking at me in a scornful kind of way, and the way she smiled once I was done talking, it just felt weird. She didn't say anything else but, okay, and we just moved on to choosing her clothes and I left after. We were supposed to go get something to eat, but she said she was tired. I'm not dumb, she was hurt. So I texted a common friend, more her friend than mine, and, without getting into details, I just told him that I talked to Jess about something that was important to me, but that I was afraid she may have gotten the wrong idea from it. The common friend said, Look, I don't want to get involved, but you should watch it. I asked what he meant. He said, Nothing, just watch it. A little while after that, he texts me back and says, Changed my mind, I do want to get involved, and sends me a bunch of prints of texts going back and forth between him and Jessie. It basically starts with him asking her if the two of us had a fight, because I was worried. He was kind with his words, I don't mind him stepping in. And then just a non-stop stream of her being horrible. He says I had a big mouth and was judging her behaviour because I'm a prude who doesn't know how to be around guys. How she taught me everything I know about having a life, and how dare I tell her what she can or cannot do, or how I should thank her for even having a boyfriend at all. Common friend actually called her out for being rude, and no friend of mine. After the prince, he told me I'm done with her, I give up, and you should watch it. He also said it was okay if I told her I had the prints. I didn't though. I didn't know what to say. I mean, she's not 100% wrong, but even though I know that, it really hurts to read those. This morning I wake up and see she texted me late at night. She says she knows Pete sent me the prints, and she didn't mean to be rude, but it's ridiculous that I'm jealous of her because if she wanted my boyfriend, she could just have him. You want me to prove it? So I'm being silly and should drop it, is what she meant. She ends it with kisses and a joke, so I don't know if she was being playful, apologising, threatening, or being pragmatical. I didn't answer her yet. I don't know what to say. Should I even say something, or should I just let it go? I wish I could talk to someone about this, but I'm very private. I usually go to Jessie with these things. Help? Yeah, that line from OP about having no idea what Jessie means by what she's saying? 100% intentional from Jessie. People who talk and message like that do it in a way that there's like 100 different interpretations that could be taken out of it. so that if someone calls them out for a negative interpretation, they can deny it and say it was something else. Classic narcissist behaviour. One commenter says, "Sounds like this person is completely wrapped up in their own head and have a serious case of overthinking their importance in life, especially others' lives. Obviously we're all going to tell you to drop her because she's not a desirable person to be around if that's how she acts and talks to you in person and behind your back. This person thinks that they own you enough so that they decided to let you have your boyfriend? F that crap. Also, show your guy everything that's happened, because guaranteed she's going to go after him." Opie replies, "I suppose you're all right. It just gets me, you know. It's a 20-year-long friendship. I keep thinking maybe this is a misunderstanding. She didn't mean it, or she's going through a hard time and doesn't know how to deal with it. I just wanted to make sure I'm not overreacting, so I needed some outside perspective. As for my boyfriend, I think he would turn her down quite fast. He doesn't really like her. He just hangs with her because of me. He's always saying that he'd rather not at all, so it's unlikely that they'd be alone together. But I will talk to him. Thank you for the heads up." Turns out she already went after him. I was stupid. Oh wow, okay, update 2. My boyfriend is having sex with her. A friend convinced some other friends to send me prints of texts between themselves and either my boyfriend or best friend. They are pretty clear. I confronted my boyfriend. He looked lost, said he loves me and it was just sex. He says Jessie kept throwing herself at him, teasing him, and he said he didn't like her, but he still wanted to hang. He said he just had sex with her to see if she would move on and leave him alone, and that it only happened a couple of times. Says he won't do it anymore. He doesn't even like her. He loves me, asking me to please forgive him. From the texts, once I finally made it through them all, I think that Jessie went to the party where me and my boyfriend met because she wanted to hook up with him. She had it bad for him, but he didn't feel the same way. She was trying to get him to break up with me, and then to get me to break up with him. It worked. As of yesterday, he is a single man. In some of those texts, they're talking about some of the hookups. I feel like throwing up. I blocked him because he was still trying to get in touch. I ghosted her, but she just sent me a message saying she just heard what happened and, you know this was probably for the best, right? And I feel like frickin' screaming. I don't know if this is an update or me just venting. Thanks for listening either way. Edit. I don't want to sound melodramatic or sappy or anything, but you all brought me to tears. We keep hearing about how it's insanity to rely on the internet for personal connections, but I just lost a boyfriend, a best friend, and a whole group of friends, and instead of feeling alone, I am more and more feeling like, frick yeah, that was the right thing to do. I'll be okay. It still hurts, but not as much as it would had I really been alone. I can't even begin to thank this sub. I really don't know what to say. Even on my previous posts that didn't get as many responses, it was some of the comments there that made me approach the cheating thing, knowing I had to break up and move on. So it changed my life in this moment, and considering I'll be doing a lot of soul searching on toxic relationships, this probably changed my life for good. So thank you all so much for reaching out to a stranger. This community is so precious. And I got a gold. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but I don't even know how much a gold costs. And this is an alt account, so it won't really be used. Is there any way I can return it to the sender? Some of you are asking for an update. I might in a while, if there's something new to tell. Right now it's just more of the same. I don't think I'll be able to answer all the comments, but I'm trying to at least answer the ones with questions. Thank you. Okay, and let's go to that Q&A in the comments. One commenter says, "Oh yeah, I would just ditch that whole friend group and start trying to find new friends. My god, that's some effed up crap." Opie replies, "Yep, done and done. I think I'm being too permissive with the word friend. It was going on for months. Everyone knew. Nobody had the decency to tell me. It was only the one friend who wasn't even that close who stood up for me." Another commenter says, "You also can't make her hurt. She has no respect for you and clearly doesn't care, so it will be impossible anyway. It would have the same effect as a drunk stranger telling you that you're awful. It might make you angry, but you don't care about that stranger, so what they say is irrelevant. Also, I can't imagine anything so utterly not worth your time. The delightful side effect of just ghosting is that they'll stew in it. They want the reaction, but they get none. They realize they lost all their power and never get to know and feel that satisfaction that comes from getting the reaction you wanted. Opie replies, "Oh, I get what you mean. She is still texting me. I didn't mention one detail because it wasn't important. We were all travelling together soon. My family paid for some of Jessie's expenses. She's messaging me about the vouchers, since I have them all. This frickin' woman can't even wait a day to ask. It's like she suddenly remembered she still needs me. I mean, I'm not giving them to her either way. Trip is off, can't she tell?" Quote, "She has no respect for you and clearly doesn't care." Absolute truth. Another commenter says, "She would be more hurt by no response at all, to anything, ever, Opie, go no contact." Opie says, "I'm very much thinking the silent treatment will be the way to go. I think she just realised she needs me for the trip. She's been aggressively trying to contact me. Now she's saying that she liked my boyfriend first, and I was the one who stole him, so she is the one who should be mad. I know I should just block her everywhere, but is it petty that I'm having fun watching her squirm? I wanted to have the last word, but not saying anything is driving her crazy." Another commenter says in response to why he had sex with her, "Lol, what? Seriously, that is one of the stupidest things I've heard. It's like saying, 'Hey babe, I jumped off a cliff because somebody was really pestering me to do it.' I feel for you, OP, but what an excuse." OP replies, "I confess I almost fell for it. How pathetic is that? He was saying he cared about me. It was just a mistake. He thought she would back off, and I felt it was a bad decision on his part, but maybe it made sense and I could forgive him. Then he said something like, 'And I didn't even like her. You were the one who always wanted us to hang.' That's when my brain joined the party and I was like, is he seriously trying to blame this crap on me?" Opie then adds some more comments and talks about the trip that they were going to take together. "The most disgusting part is that it's a trip we would take together with my boyfriend and some other friends. So she really thinks I would let my family pay for her to go on vacation with my ex, who she cheated on me with? I'm starting to think this woman is sick, like for real." I just went straight to venting, didn't I? Sorry. Well, it was all Pete, really. After she texted she could get my boyfriend if she wanted to, I just answered back, "What the F, Jessie?" And she lolled as if it was a joke. After that, Pete texted me, asked me if I was alone. He was really kind and told me everything. Said he had proof and asked if I wanted to see it. I said yes. He had gone after our friends and convinced them to send him prints. He's really well liked by everyone, and he was the one who said enough. Pete is gay, by the way, just in case anyone jumps the gun like my mum did and thinks he did this because he's interested in me or something. He's not, he's just a decent person. No, I didn't get prints between boyfriend and Jessie. I guess I went straight to venting and didn't give much details. Wasn't expecting this response. Pete convinced 3 other friends to send him texts between them, the 3 friends, and either Jessie or the boyfriend so he could have proof, because he thought what was happening was disrespectful and someone should tell me. There were prints of texts between 2 friends and Jessie, and 1 other friend and boyfriend. They were pretty clear. Jessie especially didn't seem to care about hiding it at all. Boyfriend texts were mostly wondering if I'd noticed something, and wanting Jessie to back off, while saying she was hot, etc. There was nothing 100% confirmation on his side. It wasn't a talk between him and one of his closest friends, so it was kind of generic. But when I confronted him, I said I had prints, without saying what they showed, and he just confessed. I really appreciate the prints. It was ultimate evidence. But I don't think they did it for me. It's a Pete thing. You'd have to know him to understand. He's the stand-up guy who's everyone's friend. He's a huge people person. I think they sent the prints because it was something for him, you know? He was the one leading the charge and dealing with consequences. If it were just me, I don't think they would have done it. Gee, that's sad, isn't it? A whole friend group has knowledge that something terrible is happening, and yet they do nothing about it. Okay, let's go to the final update. I said I'd come back if anything relevant happened. Ex-boyfriend kept trying to get in touch through common friends. They kept asking me to unblock him and at least hear him out, because he was really sorry, he loved me, he was a mess, he didn't mean to. Someone even went as far as to ask me if I was really sure it happened. They offered to send me prints of text where he was talking about me, so I'd see how he always had great things to say and how much he cared. But I've had it with the print screen drama for life, and said no. To the ones who insisted, I told them I wasn't unblocking him, had nothing to say or hear, and if they kept pushing me, I'd block them too. I ran into ex-boyfriend at this book thing I go to often, a hobby of mine. Maybe I'm being presumptuous, but I think he went there for me. He didn't really have any business there, but I'm just speculating really. He asked if I had a few minutes for coffee. I said I was late. Lie. He walked me to my car. He looked so good, smelled great. He was so sweet. Was even wearing his hair the way I like it. I feel horrible because even after everything, I still like him. He apologized some more, said he knew I needed time and space, but asked if I'd consider giving him another chance because he would wait for me. Said he would never talk to Jessie again and would act like they had restraining orders against each other. And I just found it really funny how everything he was saying required me trusting him, which I don't. So I told him I wasn't interested anymore and he should move on. I wish I said something snappier or wittier, but I had nothing. This was Saturday. I haven't heard from him or friends since. I think that was that. Jessie also kept trying to talk to me. Like I told some of you in the comments, I had a trip coming up. It would have been me, Jessie, ex-boyfriend, and a few friends. Since Jessie couldn't afford it, my parents paid for most of her expenses. She must have remembered this right after everything went down and panicked, because I had everything. Vouchers, confirmation emails, credit card info. She went crazy. Even showed up at my place. I wasn't home and my roommate told her to F off. Exact words. I didn't block her at first because I admit I was having some fun watching her despair. I talked to my mum and she was amazing. Told me I should cancel everything even if it costed us money. It was fine. So I did. And for one last bit of print screen drama, I printed all the emails I got confirming cancellations and sent those to Jessie with the word bye before blocking her. My roommate has been amazing. We were never really close and now I don't even know why. She cancelled plans with her friends to stay with me and invited me to go out with them next weekend. A few of you suggested I see a therapist, and I did yesterday. I really liked it. It was just one appointment and I mostly just talked, but it felt good. She gave me homework. She talked a little about unhealthy and abusive relationships and asked me to think about my friendship with Jessie and try to point what was healthy and what was unhealthy about it. Made me realize she was never really my friend. She was taking advantage of me for years and she even had me thanking her for it. Therapist also told me about this, saying, I think that's what it is, called the narcissist's prayer, which goes something like, that didn't happen. If it did, it wasn't my fault. If it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, then you deserved it. Which is totally how Jessie is handling this whole thing now. So, good riddance indeed. And a final piece of gossip. Pete talked to me yesterday. He's checking up sometimes. He's a good guy. Again, he is gay, in case someone is still thinking this might turn into a romantic comedy. He said Jessie was super sure that since I broke things off, she and my ex would hook up right away. But apparently he doesn't have the same plans, and that effed her out over the weekend. Pete says he really is a mess and went out drinking hard 4 nights in a row to the point he had to be carried home by his pals. And yesterday, they all went out for lunch at this burger place. Jessie was going to run her fingers through his hair or something, and he just pushed her away and told her to stop and to never touch him again. Great that now he manages to do that, huh? I guess in the end, he really did like me in his sick way. The thing is, I don't want to be with someone who likes me in a sick way. I want to be with someone who likes me in a healthy way. I think I deserve that. I'm also thinking about taking the money I got back from the trip to go somewhere else by myself. Haven't decided though. Anyway, this will be the final update on this, since it's unlikely that I'll have anything new to add. Now, I think I just need time to heal and let go, you know? I might come back in a few months if there's a reason to do a "Yay, life is awesome now" post, but I wanted to post this update now because I wanted to end this whole story on a bright note. And of course, thank you all again. You're the best. Okay, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, great ending there, and I love the mini revenge story about the cancellation plans as well. And yeah, OP might have lost a few old friends, but that's growing up, and it sounds like they weren't really the greatest friends either way. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my best friend's wedding? I, 28 female, am entangled in a wedding drama of epic proportions. My recently engaged best friend, 29 female, asked me to be her maid of honour, and words can't even describe how happy I was. We've been inseparable since kindergarten, and I was ready to make her big day unforgettable. I spent nearly $700 on her bachelorette party, buying cute outfits for everyone, and renting a party bus with all-you-can-drink drinks. The other girls pitched in, but I'm the most financially stable, so the majority fell on me. I helped plan the wedding of her dreams, right down to contacting the vendors and setting dates when she was too busy. I made the save the date and invitation cards. What I'm trying to say is that I did a lot for her. And then, 2 weeks before the wedding, my best friend asked me to step down and said that her future sister-in-law would be taking the role of maid of honor. I was ticked, and we got into a huge argument over this where I, admittedly, said things I wasn't proud of. Since then, I've received texts from our friends, best friend's family, the groom's family, and even sister-in-law telling me that I'm a drama queen who needs to get over herself and that it isn't about me. This has really gotten to me, and I need to know, was I in the wrong? Let's look at some comments. Did you ask anyone to financially compensate you after you were asked to step down? This feels like a gross bait and switch. Not the a-hole, this is some bullcrap. Opie replies, I tried asking for some of the money back, but she called me money hungry and said I never told her it was conditional. Not the a-hole. She changed her mind about you being her maid of honor after you've done so much for her and spent so much money, so you get to change your mind about attending the wedding. Simple as that. Did she give you a reason for why she asked you to step down? Opie says, Sister-in-law is an introvert and might never get to be a maid of honor. I had a large friend group and might be a maid of honor at one of their weddings. Not the a-hole. Being blindsided like that would be really tough on anyone, and it was really uncool of your friend to do that to you. She clearly knew her future sister-in-law and still asked you to be her maid of honor. To change that up last minute is not only uncool, it's insulting. It would be one thing if you weren't taking your maid of honor role seriously, but that's clearly not the case here. All that being said, I would highly encourage you to talk to your friend. You two have been best friends for over 2 decades, and not going to her wedding would likely cause permanent damage to the relationship. I'm not saying you need to go, just that a relationship like that deserves another, much more calm discussion where you two can have a heart-to-heart and express how you both feel in a non-judgmental way. Her sister-in-law becoming the maid of honor at the end sounds like it's likely coming from her future in-laws family and less from her, so it's possible she's being pressured into it. But obviously I'm lacking more context to be able to fully claim that. I really hope things work out for the better. Good luck. Okay, Opie makes a couple edits and then to an update. Thank you everyone who's been commenting and giving me advice. I'm going to wait a week to let emotions cool and then try and have a sit down with my friend to talk about this. I'll be logging off for now because I'm going to make a huge batch of cookies and watch some TV to relax. A small update and to answer some questions. I asked for $200 of the money back because $500 was a repayment from when she paid my rent and college for a month. I hadn't paid her back sooner because she requested I use it for her bachelorette. She's been dating her fiancé for 8 years, and we're waiting to be more financially stable before getting married. On to the update. I called her this morning and asked to talk. She agreed and we set up a meeting on Thursday at a local coffee shop. I'm a bit concerned because she sounded really shy and nervous on the phone. Hopefully that goes well and I can do an official update with happy news. Thank you so much for your advice and comments. Okay, let's go to that update. Hi everyone, this is an update to my previous post, which you can find on my profile. First, I just want to thank everyone again for how kind and supportive you've all been, but also how honest. I took everything to heart and everyone's advice was great. Now, onto the update. I met my friend at around 9 AM yesterday at a local coffee shop. She looked really bad. Her hair was super greasy and unkempt, she had really bad eye bags, and she seemed totally exhausted. When I asked her what was wrong, she just apologized. I kept prodding and it turns out that her in-laws are real pieces of work. Apparently they've been harassing her for nearly 3 years about having sister-in-law as the maid of honor at the wedding, and when my friend chose me, they went ballistic. My friend said she thought she'd be able to handle it until the wedding day, but their mother-in-law threatened to ruin her wedding dress unless sister-in-law was the maid of honor. My friend panicked, and that's when she told me I would no longer be the maid of honor. She apologized for the money-hungry comment and said that she was just in such an awful place mentally that hearing me mention the money made her really upset. The reason all our friends were attacking me is because they knew about the mother-in-law situation, as my friend never mentioned it to me because she didn't want me to step down because of mother-in-law, and they thought I also knew the whole story. And as for the fiancé, he was completely in the dark. He doesn't have a good relationship with his mother already, and my friend didn't want to be what destroyed that relationship. When my friend told me all this, I felt awful. I didn't know she was enduring 3 years of harassment because of me. I immediately apologized, and she apologized, and we both cried a lot. When the tears stopped, she pulled out an envelope with $200 and gave it to me. I originally refused, but she insisted, so I took it. I encouraged her to tell her fiancé because keeping this from him wasn't helping anyone, and if he decided to cut off mother-in-law, then that was his decision, not hers. After talking a lot more about future boundaries, our friendship and the wedding, I decided I would go to the wedding and we'd still be friends. I know my friend didn't handle this in the best way, but I've known her for over 2 decades and she's practically my platonic soulmate. That's not something you should throw away because of this. Originally that was how my update ended, but as I was typing this, I received a text from my friend saying that fiancé disinvited his mum and practically half the family, including sister-in-law, because of their treatment of my friend and me. She asked if I'd be willing to be the maid of honor again, and I said yes. I just want to give a final thank you to Reddit for helping me through this, and I hope all of you have a nice night. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, I'm glad the friend told the husband, and he decided to cut him out. Like, honestly, you can't let bullies like that have their way, because once you let them do it once, they'll just keep doing it for the rest of your life. Let me know your thoughts about that one down below. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Okay, this one's from the same subreddit. It was written by user Feisty Cupcake, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for insisting my sister uphold her end of our custody agreement? So there's a lot of backstory here. My sister Lily, female 35, had my niece Emma, 9, when she was 26. She was at the time living with my parents along with her then boyfriend, and they had both just gotten out of rehab for heroin addiction. Both her and her boyfriend were not able to stay clean for long, and she was using throughout her pregnancy. When Emma was almost 2 months, she came to me begging me to take Emma for 2 months while she checked into rehab again to get clean. I was 22 years old living in an efficiency apartment while putting myself through law school, but my parents insisted they couldn't care for an infant and had suggested foster care to my sister, so I took my niece in. When my sister got out of her rehab, she got back together with her boyfriend, who was still taking drugs, and thus began 5 years of a vicious cycle where one of them would get clean only to be dragged back under by the other. I took legal guardianship of Emma, although it was still supposed to be temporary. Every time Lily would bring up taking her back, I would agree on the condition that they both passed a drug test, and it simply never happened. When Emma was almost 6 years old, my sister came to me saying she was once again pregnant. This was the turning point for her, and she gave birth to my nephew, having been clean for almost 8 months. Obviously, it was very hard for both me and Emma, going from her living with me to moving back with her parents. We went to court and worked out a custody arrangement where I still have Emma every weekend, but she spends the week with her mum and dad. We attended family therapy altogether for the first year, and once we settled on a routine, we stopped. Here comes the issue. My sister is once again pregnant, and she and her former boyfriend, now husband, say that they don't want to allow Emma to come with me on weekends because apparently she comes home to them acting like a brat. I absolutely understand the issue. I explained to my sister that when Emma is with me, she is the centre of attention, and going from that to having to fight her brother for her mum's limited attention between bouts of morning sickness has to be hard. I offered to take my nephew weekends as well to give my sister some rest, or to possibly resume family therapy so Emma could work through these changes. My sister simply told me that Emma would be taking a break from spending time with me. I let her have 2 weekends with Emma, and then when she continued to stonewall me, I threatened to take her to court. We have a custody agreement in place and I'm still one of Emma's legal guardians. She said I'm throwing the past in her face and won't let her be a real mother to Emma. I'm conflicted. I raised Emma for almost 6 years and I treasure every moment I spend with her, but I'm getting in the way. Emma calls me every evening and asks what we are doing over the weekend and why I don't have time for her, so I think additionally my sister is spinning it as me not wanting her to come. I just want what's best for Emma. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit to clear up some misunderstandings. Emma is now 9. My sister has been clean for over 3 years. We transitioned to Emma very slowly. She was with her parents every other weekend for a year, then we had 50-50 split, and now I have weekends. For those saying I'm making it difficult for them to spend family time on weekends, I've always been flexible, and if they told me they had weekend plans, I would absolutely let them take Emma. This is not about them wanting to do stuff with Emma, this is about them not wanting me to do stuff with Emma. They send her brother to my parents' house Saturday and Sunday so they can unwind, and the past 2 weekends they sent Emma to her grandparents as well, so I don't see how it's that different if I take her. My sister is a stay-at-home mum. She does not work, so she has plenty of time with Emma. She's almost 300 pounds and rarely leaves the house, which always looks like a tornado hit it. My parents purchased my sister a house when Emma was 3 in hopes that that would help her with being able to regain custody. So with my brother-in-law working an IT job, they're able to make ends meet. I drive Emma to karate, swimming and Girl Scouts every week, and I'm in constant contact with her to make sure she's doing well. My brother-in-law has relapsed twice in the past 3 years, but he was kicked out of the house both times, so Emma wasn't forced to witness anything. For those saying that they're using Emma as a babysitter, I really don't think so. My sis rarely leaves the house, and I make sure Emma has lots of activities, because I think it's important that she's out of the house and active. Also, apparently they've recently let her watch her 3-year-old brother for 2 hours, and she was so excited that they paid her $20. Okay, let's check out some comments. Not the a-hole. It doesn't matter whose body she grew in. The reality is that from a psychological development standpoint, she is more your daughter than she has ever been your sister's. Speaking from the perspective of someone with a background in youth and adolescent development psychology and has worked with family courts for over a decade, I personally would have advised against the transition to her living with her biological parents as her primary residence, because the reality is that the bond Emma has with you is her predominant parental tie. You cared for her through the most vital core development stage of her life, and while you are technically her aunt, the role you fill in her little mind is the same emotionally and psychologically as if you are her mother. I can't imagine this will be an easy thing for you to hear, but allowing her to go into their care full time is for her like her mum had just handed her off to people who have been transient and unreliable figures in her life. That kind of transition isn't just difficult for a child, it can cause significant emotional trauma and abandonment issues, much more so than her knowledge of the fact that her biological mother placed her in your care at such a young age. You need to fight to maintain that bond with her and to protect your rights to access, not just because you miss her, but because if you do not stop them from severing her bond with you, it will cause her permanent and irreparable psychological and emotional trauma, the kind of trauma that could impact the way she builds close relationship bonds for the rest of her life. Honestly, allowing them to take her back may have already created significant trauma. Honestly, the fact that they're already disregarding the legal parenting agreement that is in place and attempting to use gaslighting and manipulation tactics in order to alienate her from you and make it seem as though you are abandoning her is a very large red flag. I can't tell you what to do, but I will say that were I in your position, I would be going to court, not to enforce your weekend visitation per the existing parenting order agreement, but to fight for her to be returned to you for primary residence due to attempted parental alienation on your sister and brother-in-law's part. OP responds, I would never let them sever our bond. We were very slow to transition her. They had her every other weekend for almost a year before we switched her primary residence. I know that I could easily get custody back. I'm a lawyer, and I not only know every loophole in the law, I know the people in the system, which is why I don't doubt I could regain custody, and would if I thought that she wasn't safe. I just don't know if that's the right move. Emma makes it clear that she considers me a mum, but my sister harbours so much guilt for not being there, and is trying so hard to be the best mother possible. It's hard to see the forest through the trees. We transitioned slowly, so they had weekends for the first year, then we had 50-50 split for almost a year, and now I have had weekends for almost a year. Opie comments on Emma's behaviour. She was doing really well until my sister got pregnant again. She loved having a little brother, and she had started calling my sister mum for the first time. I'm paying for her to attend the private school she attended preschool and kindergarten for, and she was really doing well with a stable social group and teachers. Apparently she started coming back from her weekends with me, and she wouldn't listen to her parents for the first 2 to 3 days of the week, and by the time my sister felt Emma was following house rules, it was time for my weekend, and the cycle just kept repeating. And yes, my sister has openly admitted that she is jealous of me, not only of my bond with Emma, but also of the fact that I can financially afford to provide Emma with a lot that she can't. She says I spoil her, and I'll openly admit I do. She's my girl, and I want to give her the world. From what I understand, she simply doesn't listen when they tell her to do things, like do the dishes or get off the iPad. It's hard because we don't really have the same dynamic. I have her out of the house all day during the weekend doing activities, and I don't let her have screen time, except right after dinner sometimes. And I have a dishwasher, so she puts her dishes away, but I've never had any issues with her listening to me. I have a lot of guilt associated with Emma calling me mum. She called me mum for the first 3 years of her life. Then my sister came to visit, and when Emma called me mum, she had a breakdown, screaming, crying, and asking how could I let Emma think I was her mother. It really scared and confused Emma, and when my parents got involved, it was decided that Emma should call me something else. Anything else. Okay, let's go straight to the update. So, in short, my sister gave birth, and I now have custody of all 3 children. I took Emma to an emergency therapy session, and she revealed a lot of mental manipulation that Lily had been doing. Apparently my sister told her that she had to beg me to take her as a baby, that I never wanted her, and gave her back as soon as I was able. Giving my sister credit where it's due, I did not originally want to take my niece in. I was in my first year of law school, living in an efficiency apartment and flat broke. The idea of caring for an infant, even for just a couple of months, while in school was scary, and I didn't know how I would manage. I relied heavily on my government assistance and my parents. That didn't mean I didn't love her, or that I wanted to give her back. I was trying to do what I thought was best for her at every turn. After the therapy session, I filed for an emergency custody order, citing parental alienation, but also the ace up my sleeve that my sister was using marijuana, which violated her conditions under which she could have custody. It's not legal in my state, and she doesn't have a prescription either, so I requested a drug test and a home visit, as I also cited the state of the home. I had said that the house was a mess, but it was to the point of being a health hazard and a hoarding situation. I was granted emergency custody, and CPS showed up at my sister's door on the following Monday. I knew this much was going to happen. I said on my previous post that I was confident in the fact I could get custody back, and that this is because I was aware of her use of weed. To be clear, I didn't see it as a problem. She gets migraines and uses it. However, I was not above weaponizing it if need be. This is however where everything went off the rails unexpectedly. Some people in the last post said that I clearly dislike my sister. I don't, I love her, and I think that most of her troubles are due to her trusting nature and the people she surrounds herself with. However, I will be clear, I hate my brother-in-law. When CPS arrived, they found that my brother-in-law had been growing not only marijuana in the basement, but also psychedelic mushrooms. When they drug tested both of them, they found not only marijuana in their systems, but several other drugs, including fentanyl, which was probably laced with whatever they were using. They immediately removed my nephew and reached out to me to take him. They were both arrested on charges relating to my brother-in-law's horticultural activities in the basement. I can honestly say I didn't see it. I knew she was depressed, but I didn't see any signs of her using again, and the fact that she was pregnant and using, words can't express my betrayal. I adjusted to life with 2 kids very quickly, but I knew that she was going to have another infant soon. So I visited my pregnant sister in jail, and I made a deal with her. She gave up all parental rights to all 3 kids in exchange for me paying her bail and providing her with an attorney so that she had the best possible chance of avoiding jail time. Unfortunately, I had to also bail my brother-in-law out and pay for his attorney fees. She gave birth a week ago. Thankfully, she didn't have to give birth in jail, and thankfully my second nephew seems to be healthy despite her drug and alcohol use. I have full custody of Emma and both her brothers, and I'm in the process of filing for legal adoption, which is far different than guardianship, but I don't have doubts I'll be successful given both parents signed away their rights. I know I'm doing the right thing. The past has shown me that I don't want to be in limbo, waiting for her to be clean long enough to take the kids back. It has also proven to me that I can't trust her. I don't want to co-parent with someone who will lie and manipulate like she did. Emma is thriving. I've literally never seen her happier, and despite some sleepless nights, the baby and I are doing well. I worry for my 3-year-old nephew Ian. He is doing well so far, but I don't think it's sunk in that this is permanent. He will definitely be doing family therapy. I hope that I've covered everything. Thank you so much to everyone who convinced me that everything was not right with Emma. Without you, I don't like to think what could have happened. Edit. I've seen a lot of concern in the comments about my sister having another baby. It is very unlikely. The reason she had Emma in the first place was because she wasn't on any form of birth control because she thought she couldn't get pregnant. When she was a teenager, she had to have one of her ovaries removed, and the doctor said there was very little chance of getting pregnant. Emma was breech when she was born, so my sister had to have a cesarean, and thus had a cesarean with both other children. According to the doctor, when my latest nephew was born, there were complications, and due to extensive scarring, in addition to only one ovary, the doctor told her that it's very unlikely she will have more children. It's not impossible that she could have another child, but the chances are so low that with everything else I need to worry about, I'm choosing not to worry about that for the time being. Alrighty guys, and we've reached the end of that story. Yeah, I mean, drug use while you're pregnant? There's no doubt that these kids are safer and much better off in the hands of OP here. Like seriously, some people just have zero regard for things like that. It's honestly shocking, and I read a lot of these stories and let me tell you, it doesn't get any easier. My boyfriend abandoned me on our date for his best friend, who needed him. My boyfriend Andrew and I have been dating for 2 years. One of the main problems I have with him is that he's attached, to an obsessive degree if I'm being honest, to his best friend Eddie. I'd even describe their friendship as Eddie being completely dependent on Andrew, like a needy child would be. This is a problem because Eddie and I don't get along. He's always been hostile to me since the day we met for no reason, and I'm not the type of person who takes crap from anyone, so of course I'm equally hostile back. I'm also certain that Eddie is in love with Andrew. He can never keep a relationship for long, but anyone he dates is a carbon copy of Andrew in terms of looks. He is constantly touching Andrew whenever they're together, often kicking me off from my seat next to him so he can sit there. To me, it's rude to be so blatant about your feelings for a taken man, but I guess Andrew is willfully oblivious. Anyways, after a hard few weeks of work, I finally got a break and wanted to veg at home. But no, Andrew wanted to take me out, to the beach specifically, in order to celebrate. I hate the beach, yet he still took me. So already I was a bit ticked, but then it got worse when he told me that he had to keep his phone on because Eddie was meeting up with some guy he met online, and Andrew was scared the guy was bad news. I was shocked. Eddie's a grown man, he can take care of himself, but I told myself I'd be reasonable. That was a big mistake because sure enough, 2 hours in, guess who calls? None other than Eddie, begging Andrew to come and get him because he's scared for his safety. I saw red. Somehow a grown adult can't get home by himself and has to wait for my boyfriend to come get him despite said boyfriend being 30 minutes away. He could have called an Uber or asked the staff at the bar for help, but instead he decided to ruin our date. I cussed my boyfriend out, but he gave no craps and dropped everything to go to him, leaving me stranded with no ride at a beach I didn't want to be at. He all but ran to the car and dipped. All the while I was raging at him. He didn't let me go because he didn't want to stress Eddie out more since he knows we don't like each other. I've decided to block him and he can make a grand gesture to win me back or I'm done. Still, I'm not sure what to do. Even if he does take me back, how can I know he won't do this again? At the same time, besides his weird friendship with Eddie, he's basically the perfect boyfriend. I mean, the safety thing in this instance is a bit touchy, but yeah, it sounds like their relationship is a little bit too much. Let's check out the comments. If you had a woman friend that feared for their safety after a date and was shaken and wanted you to pick them up because they were scared, wouldn't you drop everything to go help one of your friends at a time of need? That being said, taking you to a beach you didn't want to go to and just leaving you there is being out of order. And based on what you've written, I can see why you would have issues with Eddie. He doesn't seem to have any respect for you. However, blocking your boyfriend and waiting for a grandstand gesture is a childish way of dealing with conflict. The two of you need to have a conversation about not only this incident, but how Eddie treats you and how that makes you feel. Not sure what's up with Eddie, but Andrew seems like a person who cares about other people. Leaving you stranded is unfortunate, but I don't know that from what information we have I'd agree that he's a villain here. Human beings and the relationship between them are complicated, and that's all I see here. Alright, onto an update. Hey all, it's been a few days and I wanted to make an update on this post on relationships. I read almost all of your comments, both positive and negative, and it was truly a mixed bag. A few people were saying that I was a narcissist who needed therapy. Some people were saying the complete opposite, that it was Andrew who needed therapy. And finally, a lot of people had genuinely thoughtful and insightful advice, albeit opposing advice. Ultimately, I decided to do what felt right. I know I came across as toxic towards the end, so I'm sorry about that. I'd gotten really defensive after everyone reached the same conclusion, and at first I didn't want to accept it, but that's no excuse. Thanks to those of you who took the time to advise me, I appreciate it. On to the update. Though I blocked Andrew, we share some friends and they told me he desperately wanted to get in contact with me, but he would respect my wishes if I said no. I decided I would hear him out. I reasoned, he's done wrong, but if he sets boundaries with Eddie and reaffirms his commitment to the relationship, we can work through it. If not, we are done. I felt it would be childish to ghost him without having an adult discussion about our relationship. We met up and he looked sort of nervous when normally he's self-assured, so this immediately ticked me off as something being wrong. I started off by telling him that I was unhappy he constantly chose Eddie over me, and didn't seem to care about my feelings. Admittedly, I haven't been the best communicator myself, instead reverting to anger, so I apologized for that as well. He swore he didn't know that I don't like the beach, and if he had known he wouldn't have suggested we go, so there's that. I said we could still make this work if the both of us were willing to put in the effort, and he had a discussion with Eddie about what's appropriate for a friendship. Well, that isn't going to happen. He told me that he's so sorry that he led me on for 2 years, but can't in good conscience stay in a relationship with me any longer when Eddie still needs him. Despite the writing basically being on the wall, I wanted to confirm for certain, is he in love with Eddie? The answer is complicated. For context, Andrew is an extremely helpful person, the type of guy willing to give you the shirt off his back if you need it. This is especially apparent with Eddie. I had a suspicion that Eddie has some sort of mental illness, but I didn't know the extent until Andrew shared that Eddie's very depressed and has attempted in the past. It was actually Andrew who stopped him before it got to that point, and Andrew's felt this obsessive need to protect and care for him since. In Andrew's words, Eddie's very fragile and needs him. He swears up and down that nothing romantic has ever happened with them, whether that be kissing or anything more, which I believe. Still, Eddie is the most important person in his life and will always be, according to him. When we got into a relationship, he had apparently convinced himself that he could have 2 most important people, but that isn't the case, and he only just realized now, 2 years down the line. I asked him what will happen when he wants his own family, and he said that he won't marry anyone or have kids because it won't be fair to anyone involved, despite saying how much he wanted a family in the past. I suppose that was a lie, or maybe he only wants a family with Eddie, I don't know. So yeah, Andrew is so obsessed with and dependent on Eddie that he sacrificed the chance to have a family because of it. And to answer the question of whether he's in love with Eddie, he says he is straight, but he's never felt anything like when he's around Eddie, though now that I write this, I think that it could just be because they have a codependent relationship. I'm not fully convinced he's in love with Eddie in a romantic way, but rather he loves Eddie so much that he'll do anything for him. Then again, I might be wrong. To me, this is super unhealthy, but it's not my problem anymore. He told me that he was really sorry and he hates that he did this to me. He seemed genuinely torn up about it too, but that's not changing the fact that 2 years of my life are wasted. I'm a 32-year-old woman who dreams of having a huge family, yet I don't have a partner and I'm in no shape to get one anytime soon. Sure, I'm still relatively young, but time is ticking. He promised he'd set me up with someone, as if that's going to make up for this. I doubt he'll do it anyway, since all he cares about is Eddie, or at least that's what it looks like. You probably think I sound so salty and angry right now. Well, it's because I am salty and angry. I don't have it in me to have a positive outlook right now. I know I should move on and stop feeding into my anger towards him, but it's only been 2 days, so I'm not about to do that anytime soon. Thanks again to those who dealt with my BS in the comments. I know how infuriating it must have been, because rereading them, I too felt annoyed at my past self. Okay, and that's the end of that one. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Yeah, gee, I honestly don't really have much advice for OP here, except, time heals everything, I suppose, if that's any consolation. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to our next story. Okay, we're jumping over to the Am I the A-hole subreddit. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for using money we earmarked for our 6-month-old's college fund to buy back the exact 1972 Ford Bronco I owned as a teenager? So, how to begin with this? I realise that on paper I'm totally the jerk, but when you dig deeper into my motivations, I'm hoping it's more of a grey area than anything else, and maybe even I did the right thing. When I was a teenager, my dad bought me a classic 1972 Ford Bronco. It was my true passion, and I don't recall a memory from high school that somehow doesn't involve that truck. Plus, my dad and I would spend hours and hours working on it together, and when we went through that especially father-son rough patch when I was a teenager, it was always that Bronco that brought us back together. I made a huge mistake and sold the truck when I turned 19, and my dad died of a heart attack 2 months later. So, while not logical, I've always felt a karmic connection between the two events. We had a baby in early February. She is our first and the light of my life. My wife is doing well, but she's back at work and she's realised that she hates all the daycares we've tried and really wants to be a stay-at-home mum, and plus she's still very hormonal from delivery, lack of sleep and breastfeeding, so she's having a rough time and is angry a lot. I guess I need to say this. 2 weeks ago, I was driving through our town's warehouse district and saw a Bronco that was pretty beat up, but resembled mine. I stopped just for nostalgia's sake, and the owner came out and let me take a look inside. My dad and I had glued a wheat penny under the dash as sort of a security measure, so I just sort of checked and goaded if it wasn't my Bronco. I asked him if he'd ever consider selling it. He said actually someone was on the I-25 as we spoke from Colorado to buy it for $21,000. I freaked out and asked him if I could buy it right then and there for $23,000. He said if I could come up with the cash, yes. I'd been procrastinating setting up a 529, so I had $12,000 in my savings that my wife's parents had given us. I maxed out my credit card to Venmo, and my mum brought down the check for $4,000 and I frickin' drove away in my old car. It was like a dream come true. Like a literal dream come true. It needs a lot of work I can't afford right now, but it's mine. Like in my driveway mine. Again, I can't even describe what a joy this is. My wife and her parents are furious with me. They feel I was deceptive, that a real man would have sacrificed anything and everything so my wife could go stay at home with his kids, and that's setting aside that they gave us the money for a college fund. My point is, my daughter is only 6 months old. We have 18 years to set up a college fund for her, but this Bronco means everything to me, and if I wouldn't have acted, it would have been gone forever. Now it can be the same connection between me and my kids. To me, it's the literal meaning of happiness. Like I said, on paper, jerk, whole story, grey area. How do you guys see it? Uh-oh, I've got a pretty good idea what the comments are going to say here. Let's go to them. Jesus, dude, yes, you're the a-hole. Who spends $23,000 without so much as speaking to their spouse first? Jerks do. It's beyond the pale. I made a somewhat controversial comment on a thread yesterday that I couldn't imagine making a several $100 purchase without discussing it in depth with my spouse. Several $1,000s without discussion at all, with money from a college fund? Call me a jerk, but I'd think about divorcing this person. This isn't someone I trust to be my partner. Wow, I have an almost 7-month-old and your post literally ruined my day. You're the a-hole for this line alone. Quote, she's still very hormonal from delivery, lack of sleep and breastfeeding, so she's having a rough time and is angry a lot. End quote. Really? She's not angry because her husband is the type of person who blew a frickin' college fund on a junked out car? Wow, this one really affected me. I'm gonna leave this and try not to check back in because I'm heartbroken for your wife and daughter. Your in-laws gave you guys $12,000 so you could get a head start in life as a family, and you blew the lot on top of an additional $7,000 in credit card debt, all without a single word to your wife and the mother of the light of my life. You're the a-hole. Jesus Christ, you're the a-hole. You're not only the jerk, you'll be lucky if you don't end up divorced. I would have left you that day because I would absolutely never be in a relationship with anyone who, 1, made a purchase of that amount without discussing it first, 2, maxed out their credit card for a memory without discussing it first, 3, borrowed money from other people on a whim without discussing it first, and 4, put our daughter's financial future at risk. Honestly, 4 would be the smallest issue because, as you say, she's young. But the complete financial and communication betrayal, your utter selfishness and disregard for your family, and your amazing levels of disrespect for your wife would mean I would never be able to trust you again. You are a terrible husband, father, and partner. Grovel until your knees bleed, sell the stupid Bronco, and hope she doesn't run fast and far with your kid. Jeez, yeah, they did not hold back in those comments. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. I think that last one might have gone a little bit too overboard, but I think, yeah, the criticism is very much warranted. Opie gives an update and a series of edits. Edit. I had no idea this would go so one way. I guess I messed up. I talked with my mum and she's basically going to buy the Bronco from me in order to refill the college fund and pay off the credit card. The $4,000 will be a gift and she's going to give me whatever I need to restore it. She's always been awesome to me and she'd rather the money be spent now than wait for me and my sister's inheritance. Sorry to get everyone so mad at me. I was thinking with my emotions and acted badly. Edit 2. Are the mummy bailed you out comments really necessary? I found a solution and it's coming from me and my sister's inheritance, so it's not like I'm paying for it on my own eventually. Edit 3. My inbox is so buried, I have no idea what those icons are that are where the gold used to be. Does anyone know what those are? Edit 4. I'm getting a 403 error whenever I try to respond. Not sure what that means, but I'm still reading because honestly, I'm afraid to go home, even with the great news. I know my wife is going to be upset for one reason or another. Edit 5. Does anyone know what 403 error means? I messaged the moderators, but they must be busy. I can't respond to any posts and get the status 403 whenever I try. Thanks. Edit in the morning. I couldn't figure out why I was getting so many privates, but I guess this must be locked now. I didn't tell my wife that my mum bailed me out, and lied and said I found a buyer for the Bronco. I'll figure out how to cross that bridge when I get there, but my wife was so relieved that you had come to your senses. I don't want to disappoint her. It's going to take all my lying skills to pull this one off over the next few years. Right, so the band-aid OP tries to use for this problem is just creating another problem by lying. I mean, this guy got an absolute grilling in the comments, and it seems like he still hasn't learned. Geez, some people, right? Frustrating read. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Okay, same subreddit. This one was posted by user Capable Emergency, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my boyfriend I own the building we live in? Hi, obviously a throwaway for privacy. Also, I'm new to posting, so I do hope I do this correctly. When I was 18, my dad gifted me a house with 2 stories. I'm extremely thankful. We're not upper class, but my dad bought this house for a cheap price a long time ago. It was his grandmother's cousin's house. I know that this was an extreme privilege, and I'm forever grateful for this. The layout of this building is like an apartment, but it is a house, so basically each story has its own separate entry, its own kitchen and bathroom. I live upstairs while I rent out the downstairs. My boyfriend, 25 male, moved in with me about 3 months ago, and we've been together for 6 months. I have not asked him for money, neither for utilities or to pay me any rent. The only thing he contributes is to groceries, that we split 50-50. I've not brought up that I own the building, as it's not something I tell many people. If people ask me, I of course tell them that I own it, but if they just assume I'm a renter, then they can believe that. The topic of a landlord, the renter downstairs, or the owner of the building has not been something we've talked about. This last Thursday, the renter came up to tell me that her freezer has stopped working. I answered the door and my boyfriend heard us talking, I suppose. I went downstairs to take a look, and we came to the conclusion that she would buy a new one, send me the receipt, and I would give her the money. She was very grateful for this solution. When I went upstairs, my boyfriend asked if it could be fixed. I told him no, but she was going to buy a new one and I'd pay for it. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked me why the hell I would pay for her freezer. I told him that because I'm her landlord and the freezer was there when she started renting. I would stand for the cost. He just asked me if I was serious, to which I said I was. He began screaming at me, asking him why the hell I would hold this information from him and that I was an evil person. I said I was sorry for not telling him, but I did not think that it would matter. He said he could not believe he was together with someone who was a landlord, that all of us just use people for money, and that the only thing we people care about is money, and would rather have people be homeless than offering affordable rent. The downstairs is on 1 kitchen, 1 bath and 4 other rooms. I charge $500 in rent. I understand how many people have had trouble with landlords, but I try my best to be a good one. He demanded that I give him 50% of the money I make from rent, or else I was just as bad as he thought. Was I really the jerk for not telling him? He has not talked to me since Tuesday, and I've tried telling him that I'm truly sorry, but he doesn't answer me at all. What the hell? This guy was getting the greatest free ride in history, and he tries to ask you for money. Make it make sense. Let's look at the comments. Let me get this straight. He must not have offered to pay half of the rent, because then it would have come up and you would have told him, right? He's living with you rent-free. Up to now, he thought you were paying the entire rent. On what planet does he deserve half of the tenant's rent money? Please consider this relationship, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Dump him. I know that's a common response on this subreddit, but this dude was happy to exploit you for free lodging. And now that he finds out you've got income he wasn't aware of, he wants half of it just 'cause, or else you're a big meanie? You do not owe him an apology. You owe him a kick in the rear. Okay, on to the update. I read as much as I possibly could, and after thinking about this, also about previous stuff I just brushed off, I decided I would break up with him. It may seem like an impulsive decision, but after everything, I felt that the sooner the better it would be. I texted my dad and explained a bit of it all to him. I asked him if he'd be willing to drive to my place and sit in the driveway when I was going to talk to my boyfriend, and he without hesitation said yes. I thought about what I'd tell him and how I would lay it out. I was extremely nervous about how it would go, and not going to lie, I was scared after all the people telling me I should be careful, and that he may try to hurt me. When I got home, he was already there. I just greeted him, and he of course said nothing. I texted my dad. My dad got here, and I sat down on the couch beside my boyfriend. He didn't know my dad was there. I can't recall the exact details of the conversation, as my mind tends to blank out in stressful situations, but I'll try my best to recite it. Me. I think we need to have a talk with each other if this relationship is going to work. Him. So you're ready to apologize? Me. I will apologize for not telling you that you lived in my building, which I have apologized for many times already. I will not apologize for not giving you a part of my income. Him. And why is that such a big deal to you? If you don't rent out for the purpose of taking people's money, you should have no problem giving any of that money away. Me. I really try to understand how you think. You think I'm in it for the money and think I'm a bad person for renting out the downstairs complex, but yet you want money from it? Don't you understand that it seems like you're just in it for the money? I rent out the downstairs for $500. If you really believe all landlords are money grabbers and not good people, would you like me to donate half of it to charity, specifically for housing? Around here is where the calm, collected, and fine conversation ended. My memory from all of this is still all around the place. The gist of it is him telling me I was crazy for even thinking he wanted anything to do with the money for selfish reasons, that I should just trust what he says. He said he regretted ever meeting me, that he would make sure all my friends knew how I really was. He said that we were through. He threw my keys at me. He tried punching a hole in the wall, unsuccessfully. And by this time I'd already texted my dad, who came in to see what he was doing. My boyfriend just laughed and told us both he never wants to see us again and that he was out. I know this is extremely, extremely rushed, but it all just happened so fast and was incredibly stressful. It was much more said and much more done, but in all honesty, I don't really have the best recollection of everything. I tried to write out all the important stuff, and if I in a few days have managed to take care of my emotions and calm myself down, I will try to at least comment and answer questions if any of you have any for me. The conversation I tried to recite seems very cold and emotionless. In reality, it was more emotions and other words. I just tried writing it out as best as I could. However, I am safe. He can't come in here because he threw his key at me, so he doesn't have it anymore. He's now my ex-boyfriend, and I'll contact him in some time, asking about when he'd be able to pick up his stuff. I don't know where he's staying. Neither do I really care. Bloody hell, I don't know what to say about that one other than, gee, I just hate that guy. Like, what an idiot. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below. My boyfriend has disappeared every weekend for the past 3 years, and I just found out he's been lying to me about where he goes. My boyfriend, 27, and I, 24, have been together for 3 years. We don't live together, but are close enough to spend a lot of time together. However, it is very rare for us to spend a whole day together. When we have, it's been a weekday where our schedules have just happened to line up, i.e. no work or no class. We have never spent a day on the weekend together. He works as a research assistant while getting his PhD. Every single weekend for the 3 years we've been together, he insists he has work. I realize how stupid I've been now, but foolishly I trusted him. I trusted that he had work every single weekend for 3 years. That was, until today. I've been studying for finals, and it's the toughest it's ever been, so I was craving some time with him. Just a day where we could kick back and relax with each other. Of course, he says he can't because he's working, and I shut up about it. So, today I'm getting antsy anyway, and hoping we could at least spend the evening together. I end up texting him, asking when he thinks he'll be back, and we can spend the night. I've done this plenty of times before, and he always responds fairly quick. This time, I'm waiting for a while. After 2 hours, I decide to text a work friend of his who's also a research assistant with him. Wouldn't you know it, it turns out they don't have work today. In fact, he informs me in that same text that they rarely ever have work on weekends. Rarely ever. So now I'm sitting here wondering what the F is going on. I've no idea how to confront him about this. I mean, this has been going on for 3 years. If he's cheating on me, he basically has a second family at this point. But obviously that's where my mind goes, and I have no clue what else it could possibly be. Like, is there any possible explanation for this besides cheating? How in the world do I confront him about something that he's been doing for 3 years? Since he's doing whatever it is tomorrow, do I just drive over to his place in the morning and wait, and then follow him? Has anyone had anything like this happen to them before? Uh-oh, I think we know where this is going. Let's go to the comments. Do you spend any holidays together? Celebrate your birthdays together? Met his friends? Met his parents? Met any other family? Do you give each other gifts? Have you had discussions about living together or any future? So many questions that the answers could give a better understanding of your relationship. OP, there are so many examples of men leading double lives where they have 2 families. Guess what reason they use to excuse it, aka cover it up? Work. That's the cover-up basically every single time. I know it sounds absolutely insane, bonkers and impossible. That's because to us sane, decent people, it is. But the people capable of lying and deceiving like this aren't like us, and they take advantage of the knowledge that we can't even fathom such a thing. It helps them get away with their lie and keep it going. Think about it. Really, the only plausible explanation that he's away for work literally every single weekend for 3 years is because he's leading a double life. Only a family life with another woman and kids makes sense for such a long-term habitual pattern. You've tolerated a relationship for years where you don't even spend an entire day together. To him, you're the perfect side piece since you're willing to tolerate that for so long without questioning it or putting your foot down. You're in denial, and I don't blame you. I would initially be too. You know this smells fishy, and it is. Knowing myself, I would get crafty and find a way to discover the truth, get proof, and let the other woman know. Best of luck to you. You're definitely the other woman. I saw you question how his real relationship would function if he didn't see her, but only on the weekends, and the answer is it's a long-term relationship with a foundation, and it's only like that when he's in school. Once school is done, he'll go home to his actual wife and family. Why I know this? My mum was unknowingly the other woman for many years. Okay, on to an update to find out. So, I logged into this account for the first time since making my original post and find that there are a lot of messages. I haven't read them all, but I will. The recent ones all ask for an update, so here it is. When I logged off, things seemed to be pretty split on what I should do. Most people just decided to call him a cheater or say that I'm the side chick. Frankly, I wasn't sure I could wait another day to confront him, so I confronted him the night of that post. No games or stalking or anything. Anyway, I texted him telling him to come over when his work was done, and he did. I waited about 5 minutes, if that, for him to settle in before telling him that we needed to talk about something important. He immediately responded with, "Uh-oh," which was a bit demeaning, but that sarcastic response honestly matches his personality. I tell him everything that happened, how hurt I was, how I didn't feel like I could trust him about anything considering he's been doing this for 3 years, and then asked if he had anything to say. He told me he wasn't cheating on me or anything like that. He was just embarrassed about what he'd been doing. I asked him what he could possibly be so embarrassed about as to hide it and lie to me about it for 3 years. He takes like a minute to compose himself and then mutters something. He clearly feels guilty, but I obviously don't hear it, so I ask him what he said because I didn't hear. He tells me that he volunteers at a homeless shelter every weekend since coming here for his PhD. Volunteering at a homeless shelter? I swear to you, whatever emotions are coming across here were multiplied 10 times in the moment. I could not comprehend what he was saying. Like he was embarrassed for volunteering at a homeless shelter? It doesn't and still doesn't make any sense. So I asked him what he meant, and he repeated that he volunteers at a homeless shelter for 6 hours on Saturday and 6 hours on Sunday every weekend. Of course, I asked him why he would be embarrassed about that, and he asked if we could talk about this more tomorrow, on Sunday, and he can instead show me that he isn't lying by taking me to volunteer. I don't know what I was really thinking. I think my mind was just blank, so I agreed with a sure and asked him to leave. He apologized for the whole thing and left, and then sent a text that he'd pick me up in the morning so he can prove to me that he's not lying. Of course my mind races all night, and I tossed and turned all night, but Sunday came anyway. He wasn't lying. He takes me to a homeless shelter and soup kitchen place. I don't really know the difference, and we make food, clean, and pack daily necessities for 6 hours. It clearly isn't the place to have the conversation, so I spend most of my time doing the work and chatting with other people, and they were really nice, but of course the whole thing was still weighing on my mind the entire time, so I start asking them about my boyfriend, and they confirm that he's been working there as long as they remember, and is there every weekend. He's been there longer than most of them, it seems. Finally, our volunteering ends and we head back to his car, and I try to start the conversation, but he shuts me down and asks me to wait until we get back to his place. I say fine, maybe I'm being a doormat here, but I was just so confused and lost, and we head to his apartment. Once there, the talking begins. He asks if I believe that he's telling the truth about working at the homeless shelter every weekend, and I say that I do, since I confirmed it with a lot of people while there. But I also said that I don't understand the lying, especially for as long as he did. He apologizes again and asks if I really want to know why he kept it a secret. I say, of course, duh. He sighs and then tells me that he doesn't like people knowing that he likes helping people. Obviously, I'm going what the F because this is so weird, and I ask him to explain. He tells me that when he was an undergrad student, he would always try to help his class behind the scenes by discussing problems they had or negotiating for curves or extensions on their assignments, even when he didn't personally need it. He said he enjoyed doing it and kept doing it as a master's student, but then started to do so before and after classes publicly. Apparently most of his classmates were still happy with him, but a few basically hated him for it because he was babying them or something. ? So he went back to doing things behind the scenes and no longer tries to associate himself with any of the things he does to help others. Hopefully I'm not the only one who finds this so damn weird. Like, the homeless shelter stuff and assisting your classmates aren't remotely the same. I say as such and he tells me it does the same thing. It helps people, so he doesn't like people to know about it because then they might misinterpret his intent and think he's masquerading as a good person. Then he assures me that he's not a good person at all, but he still wants to do what he can for people, so this is what he does. WTF? So I ask if he really thinks I'd get mad that he's helping homeless people in his free time. He tells me that he wasn't sure at first, especially since I wanted to spend weekends together when we were first going out. Duh, every couple does. So he just lied to hide it at first, but he knows I wouldn't do that now, but kept the lie going because he thought it would be too weird to suddenly say that he's volunteering at a homeless shelter. I feel like I've come to the conclusion that he's just really, really weird. His way of thinking has always been odd, but this in particular is just so weird. Like, he seems to understand the situation and where I'm coming from, but didn't think to tell me the truth on his own. We started going in circles, so I ended the conversation and had him drive me home in silence. Since then, he's sent a number of texts and has tried to call me a few times. I didn't pick up on Monday or Tuesday because I felt like I needed time to think, but I finally picked up today and we had a talk in which we both reiterated what we had said. I know a lot of people, literally all of them at this time, were telling me to break up with him, but I'm still thinking things through. I'm going to try and get him to hang out this weekend and make my decision after I think some more. This whole thing has been so weird. I'm sorry that I've repeated that so much, but my brain is still rather scrambled. I don't think there'll be any more updates to this because we either stay together or break up, but if there are, they won't be posted here. What the hell? Did not see that coming. What a weird thing to lie about for so long. Let's go to some more comments. Honestly, it is strange that he felt the need to lie about it, but at the same time it does seem like he has good intentions. A lot of people like to do volunteer and charity work, donations, etc., and keep it quiet because they don't want to seem like they're trying to be a good person. They just want to help those in need and keep it quiet, just like your boyfriend said. I understand your confusion and being upset about the lies, and that's completely valid, but in this situation I do hope you give him another chance. It's very possible the embarrassment comes from past trauma in his life. Personally, I've been in some bad situations and been on hard times, especially as a child with my single mum, and now that I'm grown and have the ability to help those that are in that situation I was once in, I basically feel obligated to help. Again, it's your relationship, and not being honest with you because of embarrassment is one thing, but I hope you two could discuss this more and figure it all out because you're both valid here in my opinion. I commend you for bringing it up to him and I commend him for helping those in need. Good luck. OP replies, "Thank you. I'm going to talk with him some more and see. Obviously we've been together for 3 years and I really do love him, but this is just so strange to me. Like, I get having a past trauma and that affecting behaviour and whatever, but making a few enemies in your cohort translates to hiding volunteer work for 3 years? The whole thing is confuddling." One commenter asks about the boyfriend's parents and if he had bad childhood years, such as abuse or manipulation from parents or family, and if this affected his behaviour to be the people pleaser. OP says, "Both of his parents are in his life. He's from out of state and the last time he visited them, in person, was 2 years ago I think. I've never met them, though I have talked to his mum over FaceTime a handful of times. He's never mentioned having any trouble with his family, so I'm not yet at the point where I'm going to assume the worst. One commenter asks about the possible volunteering services being mandated by the courts, and if the boyfriend has done something illegal, and asks the volunteers to lie for him on his whereabouts. OP replies, "There have been quite a few comments about it possibly being court-ordered. I don't want to identify his field completely or anything because it's pretty niche, but if he had a criminal record, it would be incredibly difficult to work in his field, so I don't think he has one. I haven't looked at his messages or anything of the sort. Maybe people are going to call me naive for this, but getting every single volunteer I talked to over that 6-hour period, in addition to some people who are making use of the services to lie for him, seems really unlikely." I think I underplayed the seriousness with which he explained the conflict with his classmates. I didn't follow it completely, but he really did seem very affected by the whole thing. Maybe he's acting, but it didn't look that way to me. Rightio, on to another update. So I asked him to come over so we could talk, and he did. I then asked him some of the questions people had on here that I had written down. Volunteering for 6 hours, but still not having time for me. He said he would get there a little early and leave late, but would then spend the remaining hours running errands and actually working on PhD and assistant stuff. I asked if he could give me details, and he gave me some details about academic articles that I don't remember. I asked why he couldn't spend more weekend evenings with me if this was the case. He said that he was really busy with work and that I would distract him. Ouch. Out of all the things said, I think this is the one that bothers me the most. I asked if the volunteering was court-ordered. He laughed at that and was clearly confused by the question, but answered that given the special population he works with doing his PhD, he doubts he'd be able to work with them if he had a record that required so many hours. I asked if he was ever going to tell me about the volunteering. He initially says he doesn't know, and then replies that he probably wouldn't have. He apologized for lying, but then said that whether he was working or volunteering, it doesn't make a difference to how much time he spends with me. Obviously I pushed back on this, and he got defensive, and we had an argument that basically reiterated how I felt like I couldn't trust him because he was lying about this, while he kept apologizing for the lying and making me feel that way, but that it wouldn't have changed how we spend time together. Ultimately, I asked him to explain to me again why he hid it in the first place. Like he said previously, he used to talk to professors during undergrad about extensions and questions others had behind closed doors, and then make sure those things were stated to the rest of the class. He did the same thing in his master's program. This is where I got lost before. One of his professors was a hard ass, and some of his classmates were scared to talk to him about their grades, so he thought he could show them that he was willing to discuss grades, and he made a joke about his own grade in class. The professor didn't find it funny, and went on a tirade about respect, and showing him up, and apparently the class ended shortly thereafter because it was so tense. He said that some of the other students felt like they needed to cut ties with him to show the professor they weren't in on the joke, and that a few of them made a show of hating him from that point forward. Hearing it more in depth at least makes this make a little more sense to me. I stated again that helping homeless and helping classmates seemed like entirely different things altogether. He said that they felt like the same to him, but that I was probably right and he was wrong. I asked him why he said he's a bad person. He replied asking if he said that, and I said yes. He said that he didn't want the volunteering to make him seem like a good person, because he's not. I asked what he meant, and he replied that I know him. I said I'm not sure I do. He said that I know what he means. I don't, you do, etc. in circles. Personally, I think he has low self-esteem, but this is a weird way to express it, and I'm not sure what else it could be. I told him I wasn't sure I wanted to continue the relationship because of the lying. He seemed hurt, but then just said okay, and that it's my decision. I told him that he should at least get therapy for the classmate thing, because it's clearly affected him negatively. He replied that he probably should, but he won't. After that, I gave him an ultimatum. Either spend more time with me on weekends and go to therapy, or we break up. I told him to think about it and that he has until Saturday. He said he would, and he went on his way. Yeah, it just sounds like he's not invested in this relationship at all at this point. Let's go to the final update. This will probably be my last post here. Saturday came and he asked me to compromise. He would take a day off from volunteering if I volunteered with him the other day, and he wouldn't have to go to therapy. I said I needed to think about it. I told him later that night that I'd accept the compromise if he was willing to go to one therapy session. On Sunday morning, he told me he wouldn't be willing to go to therapy and asked that we go out to dinner. We went to a local diner and basically talked about ending things. He apologized for ending things this way and said that he knew he wasn't exactly being reasonable, but he's doing what he feels like he needs to do. I basically said that's up to him. We wished each other the best, he gave me a parting hug, and I went on my way. So yeah, 3 years of commitment for this. Kinda sucks. Have a good day. God, what an ending. Yeah, it sounds like he definitely needs to sort himself out before jumping into another relationship. But yeah, 3 years, that's a long time to drag someone along with you. And not gonna lie, pretty selfish, like you've essentially just wasted this person's time. But yeah, we live and we learn, I guess. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know down below. Anyway, let's jump to our next story. Okay, this next one's a quick one from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Playful Sandwich, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for punishing my stepdaughter for a joke? My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We have a 9-year-old son together. My wife also has an adopted daughter, 16. It's not really her daughter, and she's not exactly adopted. Technically, it's my wife's niece. Her parents abandoned her, and my wife took her in. She is the brattiest, rudest, most annoying child, but I try to tolerate her because it means a lot to my wife. Anyways, yesterday was my son's 9th birthday, and we threw a small party, family only. My son insisted that we play a game in which we have to say what superpower we want to have, and he would tell us what weakness we would have. When it was my turn, I told him that I want to be invisible. He said, "You will be invisible, but your penis won't be." My stepdaughter then chimed in and said, "Good, you will still be very hard to notice then." Well, that's just what Mum said, and bursted out laughing. I grabbed her phone and laptop and told her that she's grounded for 2 weeks and can't have her phone back for a month. My wife thinks I overreacted to a kid's joke and I'm an a-hole, but she embarrassed me in front of everyone, and I believe she deserves her punishment. Okay then, let's go to the comments. Well, she was hoping for a reaction and you exceeded her expectations. Nice job. Jesus, you don't have to like that your wife is trying to help her abandoned troubled kid, and I was almost going to root for you. But if the worst thing she's done is make a crass joke about you and her mum, well, look at that, she didn't even pick quotation marks around her stepmother, then she's not worse than a healthy teen. Stop being such a cranky, judgmental grump for 2 seconds and learn to laugh a little. No wonder your stepdaughter thinks you need to be taken down a couple notches. I do too. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. This was a joke from a kid. You embarrassed yourself by overreacting. Also, by your post, you seem to be a terrible stepdad. Yeah, you're the a-hole. I mean, clearly you're always just itching for an excuse to be mean to this girl. The fact you went through so much effort to detail your relation to her when it has nothing to do with the incident just shows you're an a-hole. She made a joke. Was it appropriate? Not really, but you can have a conversation about that. And did you punish your son for saying something that's pretty inappropriate in front of a bunch of people? 9-year-olds shouldn't be talking candidly about anyone's penis in public like that. But was her joke at least true? Great little jab at the end there from that comment. And yeah, most of the comments are like that, so I think we get the gist. And given the fact that Opie didn't give an update means he's probably a bit butthurt about it. What do you guys think about this one? Give me your thoughts. My boyfriend and our circle of friends pranked me on my birthday and I ghosted them because of it. Throwaway because my coworkers know about my main Reddit account and I don't want them to know about this issue of mine. I, 27 male, met my probably soon-to-be ex-boyfriend Alex, 29, 2 years ago through a mutual friend of ours. I never expected he'd be interested in me because when I first met him, he had only been with women. He came out as bisexual to me and our friends not too long after that, and that same night he hinted that he was into me. We got to know each other more and it eventually turned into the two of us dating. He's genuinely a sweet and awesome guy. Quite introverted but has a big heart and a real geek about the things he likes. I thought he'd be the one I'd be marrying and all that, but I'm thinking that's not going to happen anymore. Last Monday was my birthday, and I went home early from work so that Alex and I can go out and enjoy ourselves. I told him earlier that day that I would go home early. When I opened the door, I was greeted by him laying on our couch, while a woman I didn't know was on top of him. They were fully clothed, by the way. I was basically paralyzed and couldn't react at all. He eventually saw me and had a surprised look on his face, but he also looked like he was trying to hold his laugh in. The woman also looked like she was about to laugh as well. I also started to hear chatter from the kitchen and in our bedroom. Alex then shouted, "You guys can come out," and so our friends came out of our bedroom and kitchen holding gifts, party poppers and a cake. I guess them shouting, "It's a prank, happy birthday," while turning the party poppers on, snapped me back to reality, because after they said that, I just quietly turned around and left. I didn't see their reactions when I did that, but I could hear them saying, "Oh crap," and "wait," and some other things I can't remember. When I heard them try to follow me, I hastened my pace until I reached my car and drove away. While driving, my phone started to get bombarded by texts, calls, and messages from my boyfriend and our friends. When it got too distracting, I just turned off my phone and went to a hotel that's far enough from my place. By the time I got to my hotel room, I just started sobbing on the floor. I think I blacked out from crying because when I woke up, it was already sunny outside. I made sure to tell my team leader first that I would be absent for a few days due to an emergency, and she was kind enough to accept my request. She probably noticed something was off with me because I was sniffling and my voice sounded weak. Right now, I plan on telling my aunt, who lives near my area, about what happened and asking if I could live with her for a couple of days until I sort out my mind and know what I have to do next. I'm deeply heartbroken because I've told my boyfriend and my friends before how I felt about cheating and how it essentially ruined my family growing up and my young mind back then. My mum cheated on my dad and it broke our family, and I got cheated on by my first boyfriend. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like I overreacted and that I should have just went with it all. I still don't plan on opening my phone, so I'm using my laptop right now to type this. I don't know how to face and respond to them all after that has happened. Maybe some time away from them will help, I hope. Let's look at some comments. Stuff like this is just mental. Why would anyone think that's a funny prank? Especially your partner. Not only that, how could your partner tell other people that this was their plan and they also agreed that this would be funny? Oh, you poor thing. A good prank should confuse, never abuse. The person being pranked should end up laughing as much as everyone else. This was not a prank. This was people that you trust taking your trauma and using it against you for their own amusement. You are not overreacting. Anyone who is willing to be so callous and cruel for a joke is not worth keeping in your life. So they know your stance on cheating and thought the best prank to pull would involve something that you hate, involving your boyfriend and a girl. Great plan. These friends sound great. They all know they effed up the second you left and they went, "Oh crap, but a thought like this should never have been considered," and the fact they thought this would be a good idea on your birthday, the disrespect. If I was you, I'd be done completely. It's humiliating towards you for a prank. How will you react in future when they bring this up as a funny story? That's not funny. It's crap that your birthday was ruined. Go see your aunt and let her know the situation. You need a nice support system. How did not one friend say this isn't a good idea? WTF. Okay, on to an update. Hi there. I'm sorry it took me a while to post an update. I've been busy and I also got back to working 2 days ago, so I don't really have that much free time on me anymore. But before I get started with the actual update, I would like to thank everyone who has given me their advice and wisdom, along with those who wished me well and a belated happy birthday. You folks really made me feel happy even after all of this has happened. I never thought internet strangers could be so kind, lol. Normally I confide with my friends whenever I had a problem, but since they somehow became part of that problem, I thought maybe going here would be a good idea, and I guess it was. Truly, thank you to all of you. Although, even if almost all of you had nothing but great advice and nice things to say, there were some who were skeptical or were even harsh, specifically in the way I just ghosted my boyfriend and everyone at that surprise party. Truth be told, I could have done something more mature, as some would say, but really, in that moment, all I could think was remove myself from that situation because I wouldn't know what I would do if I fell back to my old self. Also, sorry for any typos, I wrote this all on my phone. For context, I found out my mum was cheating on my dad at 14 years old. I got home from school early and found that the house was empty. I went upstairs to go to my room, but as I got nearer to my parents' room, I heard these faint sounds of sex, and it didn't help that the door to the room was slightly opened. Curiosity got the best of me and I decided to take a peek inside, and there she was, my own mum cheating on my dad with his co-worker. I felt like I was going to be sick, like it was some sort of nightmare. I froze there for a few seconds before my dad's co-worker noticed me and immediately alerted my mum that I was watching them. When my mum finally realised what happened, she started calling me out and tried to follow me, but I got to run to my room and locked it before she could catch me. My mum was frantically calling out my name and knocking hard on the door, but all I could do was cry. The realisation that the person I was calling my mum wasn't the person I thought she was hit me like a ton of bricks, because I used to adore my mum. She was always around while my dad was working full time, which made me resent my dad because he was never around. I remember hiding in my bedsheets and eventually falling asleep. I was woken up by my dad knocking on my door and calling me to come out. I had to comply, of course, and when I opened the door, my father was standing in front of me, with my mum behind him. He gave me a tight hug and asked me about the guys who bullied me while I was walking home from school, and I was confused when he mentioned that, but then I saw my mum looking mad at me and basically telling me through her face that I should go along with it. As much as I hated it, I went along with it because I didn't want to hurt my dad. Since then, I've decided to fully ignore my mum unless it was for a chore or something important, and when I moved out at 18, I made sure to go no contact on her and only talk to her when my dad wanted me to. My mum and dad eventually divorced after I moved out. Turns out he always knew but didn't want to do anything about it until I moved out because he didn't want me to live in a household riddled with arguments and stress brought upon by divorcing couples. It didn't really work, but I appreciate my dad for still looking out after me even if he was hurting. Then, when I was 19, I got into my first ever relationship. We had a pretty nice start and we were each other's firsts, but when I found out he was cheating on me, things got really ugly. I know this is not an excuse, but I was young and didn't know how to handle that information when I got it, and knowing how much I hated cheating, I basically went crazy on him and turned to destroying his stuff, deleting all copies of his thesis, and even went as far as doing this insane Facebook rant where I exposed his cheating and posted pics of him and the guy he was cheating me with, and even mentioned his mum and dad in the post, and outing him without his consent. I deleted the post just 2 days after, but the damage has already been done, and my ex ended up moving away and living in another area because of my post. Obviously, I'm thoroughly embarrassed and ashamed of what I've done, and I still regret doing all of that. When my aunt found out about what I did, she gave me a pretty stern scolding and insisted that I had to get checked by a psychiatrist because what I did isn't normal, and it's not. And I got diagnosed with severe depression, and the doctor also said I had some unresolved trauma, which confused my aunt. But after telling her what happened 6 years ago, she fully understood why, and gave me a tight hug and cried after spilling everything to her. She felt bad because she wasn't able to do anything to help me before, and now is extremely mad at her sister, my mum, for doing all of that to me. Ever since then, my aunt has helped me get the therapy and meds that I needed, and essentially turned into my mother figure. My ex and I don't talk much these days, but we've made amends and are on good terms now. Now that all of this stuff from my past has been finally laid out, for those wondering why I did what I did, here's the actual update. After I submitted my original post, I packed my things that night and prepared to go to my aunt's house, which wasn't that far but still a bit of a drive nonetheless. When I finally got there, she was incredibly welcoming and I thanked her for allowing me to stay in her house, even just for a while. She gave me a tight hug and told me I was always welcome and that she'll be there to help me when I need her to. She eventually led me to the spare bedroom that they have in their house and helped me unpack my stuff. She is honestly such an incredible woman and I love her so much. She's basically the mum I've always wanted. Once I was done unpacking, I was again confronted by the fact that I haven't opened my phone for quite some time now. I've avoided it for so long that I didn't think I could open it again, but I knew I had to. The moment my phone booted up, hundreds upon hundreds of texts, chats, and missed calls popped up on my screen. Even if I was still hesitant, I decided to open my chats and looked at our friend group's chat first. The chats from the start were all very frantic in nature, with my friends asking about where I was or what happened, but after scrolling down a few more times, the chats turned into them apologizing that the prank happened and that it was not on the plan at all. One of my friends even blamed the girl that was on top of Alex, my boyfriend, and thought she was untrustworthy. Finally, the chats ended up being them hoping they could contact me and wishing I was safe. I guess they knew I just read their chats because as soon as I was done back reading, my friends immediately knew I was online and asked how I was doing and where I was. They also started apologizing again for not being able to stop the prank from happening, and that they didn't know that was going to happen and thought the original prank was going to be something else. At this point, I was thoroughly confused because they seemed happy enough to be there during that night, but I knew I had to apologize to them first for ghosting them and asking their side of the story first before speaking out about what had happened. Essentially, they were simply planning a surprise birthday party for me with Alex in a group chat that didn't include me. Then, my boyfriend added a few more people into the group chat, saying that they were college friends of his and he wanted them to be a part of the surprise party too, since they also wanted to meet and get to know me better. As a suggestion, one of my boyfriend's college friends pitched the idea of them pranking me. The plan was my boyfriend is going to be on the couch with a serial killer holding a bloody knife and fake stabbing my boyfriend while the killer was on top of him and while my boyfriend is bleeding everywhere. My boyfriend's college friends thought it would be funny to see my reaction, although my friends were initially skeptical. They reassured them that it would be harmless fun and that once my boyfriend and the friend who'll be acting as the killer got their desired reaction on camera, they can just tell me that it was all a prank and my friends and my boyfriend's other college friends would come out and surprise me with their gifts and stuff. My friends eventually agreed, so as long as they don't drag out the prank and immediately reveal everything once they captured my reaction on camera. The day of my birthday comes and everything they've planned seems to be going smoothly, with them waiting for me. My boyfriend's college friends ushered everyone to hide while they set up the prank, and when it was done, they would hide too. When they finally heard my boyfriend say they can come out, they thought the prank was a success because I looked absolutely mortified. But they knew something was up when even after the prank was revealed, I was still looking shocked and almost teary-eyed even, until I finally turned around and left. They were understandably shook and confused, thinking the serial killer prank was too much, but knowing me, I wouldn't have minded it at all since I love scary movies and an avid horror enjoyer. That was then they realized that my boyfriend's female college friend was on top of my boyfriend, not wearing any serial killer costume and not holding any fake bloody knife. They then saw my boyfriend pushing his female college friend away from him and chasing after me. Some of them also tried to follow me, while some were asking what happened to the original plan. Even my boyfriend's other college friends were wondering why their female friend wasn't in costume, but she was just silent. After a few minutes, my boyfriend came back to our apartment looking distraught and crying. He then tells everyone that they should all go and proceeds to go to our bedroom. They wanted to ask him what happened, but he shut the door before they could. His female college friend then followed him inside, which really weirded them out, but after a while they heard my boyfriend shouting at her, telling her to F off. She then goes out the door on the verge of tears and leaves the apartment. They said everything happened so fast that they didn't know how to process all that has happened. Not too long after that though, they realized that I was missing and started calling and texting me, but I didn't respond to any of them. Eventually I was unreachable, I turned off my phone, and decided they should just go home and wait for me to respond. My boyfriend's college friends apologized profusely to what has happened and didn't mean for any of this to happen, but they basically just ignored them. They then followed their retelling of their side with videos that they've recorded that proved their accounts, along with an apology and wishing that I was doing well. After my friends told me what happened on their point of view, I felt really terrible and apologized again for ghosting them and telling them that everything that happened was none of their fault. I told them that I would make it up to them soon, but they reassured me that they accept my apology and are just happy that I'm alive and well. They also pitched to have a late birthday celebration with me this weekend, and my boyfriend and his friends aren't included this time. I, of course, happily agreed and thanked them for being such great friends, and that I really couldn't thank them enough for being such an awesome bunch of people. The morning of the next day, my aunt knocks on my door and wakes me up, telling me that I have a visitor downstairs. She looked a bit mad, so I can already tell who it is. It was my boyfriend Alex, carrying this beautiful bouquet of flowers and my favourite chocolates with him. Even if he looked amazing, his face was the complete opposite, because he looked like he was crying for days. I asked him how he found out about where I was, and he told me that once I turned on my phone again, an app on my phone that we both have notified him of my whereabouts. It's basically an app that allows you and your trusted friends to share your locations in real time, as long as you have an internet connection and your location is on. I was a bit frustrated that he actually came here to my aunt's house, but nevertheless, he was already there, so might as well just hear him out on what he had to say. He basically reiterated what my friends told me, but he added in some more details that my friends didn't know about. Apparently his old college friends reconnected with him after he lost touch with them after they graduated. They found his Facebook account through some searching and wanted to ask him about his life after all these years. They were especially happy when he told them that he currently has a boyfriend because they secretly knew he was bisexual but didn't want to make assumptions or make him feel weird about it. Alex eventually tells them about me, and he mentions that him and our friends are planning a secret birthday surprise for me, and they immediately wanted to be a part of it. After they were added to the group chat, they started suggesting ideas on how to make the surprise much more fun, until their female friend, we'll call her Anna, suggested that they do a prank to surprise me. Alex's college friends were immediately on board because they saw TikToks of it and they thought it was really funny, but my friends were obviously skeptical. Eventually they agreed what the prank is going to be and that the prank wouldn't take long. Anna volunteered to be the, quote, serial killer since it was her idea, and they all went and did their parts of the surprise so that everyone would be ready when my birthday comes. The day of the surprise party comes, and everyone prepares for my arrival. When Anna and Alex went into their assigned positions for the prank, he wondered why she still wasn't in her costume and that her props were missing, but all she could reply was that she forgot. Alex offers to find the costume and props, but Anna insists that there's no more time and that I was going to arrive soon. Alex at this point was extremely uncomfortable and wanted to get out of their position, but before he could do it, I already opened the door and saw them. He admits that he effed up by laughing a bit at my reaction because it was exactly the reaction he thought I was going to make, but immediately realised what it looked like and called everyone to come out to save himself from the embarrassment and give context to what I was seeing. When he realised that didn't work, he forcefully pushed Anna away to chase after me, but he wasn't able to keep up once I got into my car. It then sunk into him that he effed up big time, and that when I drove away, that's when he remembered my trauma about cheating, which made him cry while returning to our apartment. He tells everyone to leave and retreats to our bedroom, not really knowing what to do. To his shock, Anna comes inside our room unannounced and starts comforting Alex. He repeatedly tells her to leave and that he'll be fine. But what really set him off was Anna asking him, "So, does that mean you're single now?" That's when he realised she did it on purpose. Alex then shouts at her and angrily asks her to leave, which she then complies to after looking like she just embarrassed herself. Alex is in tears at this point, and he tells me that he wishes he just didn't agree with the prank. He's cut off contact with his college friends for now, and is incredibly sorry about what happened. He then starts hugging me really tightly, and says that he loves me so much and that he's scared of losing me. His words alone also made me cry because even after everything, I still love him deeply, and I do believe everything he said. After a minute or two of us hugging and crying, he lets go of me and tells me that we should go back together to our apartment, but that if I still need time and space, he'll gladly give it to me. I gave him a kiss, and I responded to him with me asking him to help me pack my stuff. Of course, I gave my aunt the warmest of hugs and told her how much I appreciated her for helping me. She was happy things got resolved, but also jokingly threatened my boyfriend that if he did something stupid or hurtful to me again, she'll personally whisk me away to safety and away from him. My boyfriend laughed a bit, but I think he was just hiding his nervousness. Now I'm back in our apartment, and Alex even offered to throw away the couch that was used for the prank, but I declined since it's a pretty nice couch and everything that has happened was something no one wanted, aside from Anna probably. I've already made amends with my boyfriend and we've both forgiven each other, and my friends are happy that things worked out in the end. Alex is probably now invited to the weekend party, but I've yet to ask them. Don't worry, I'm also going to get in touch with my therapist soon and book new appointments with her, per the suggestion of my aunt. This has all taken a toll on me, but I'm glad to have the support of my boyfriend, my friends, and everyone who has read my post and shared their support to me. Also, I realise that this update is probably not what most of you wanted to happen, and as much as I was close to just giving it all up, I never had a reason to in the end, and I'm glad I got to hear their sides out before making any huge decisions that I might end up regretting later. And I do trust my boyfriend and my friends, since they all sounded sincere, and they did have proof to back them up. I think this is going to be my last update since everything seems to have been resolved at this point, but I'll try to make an update if ever something happens, but I hope that's not going to be the case. Once again, thank you everyone. Okay, now I'm guessing something happened because there's one last update. Hello. This is definitely my last update about this mess because quite frankly I'm tired of all of this. But before I start this update, I would like to say sorry to everyone who thought my previous update was too long. I guess I was just overcome with joy. I feel stupid about it now, talking about what happened, that I didn't get to edit it much. But don't worry, this update won't be as long. And thank you to everyone who had nothing but kind words. I really appreciate you all. So a few days after my previous update, Alex, my now ex-boyfriend, came up to me while sobbing and confessed that he hasn't told me the complete truth about Anna. Apparently him and Anna were a couple back then. She was his first girlfriend and he did a lot of firsts with her. First kiss, first date, first sex, etc. Once they graduated, Anna broke things off with him because she can't handle long-distance relationships and didn't want to be tied down yet. Anna breaking up with him caused him to go into a spiral and develop severe depression, along with self-harming tendencies, something he still goes to therapy for. It took a lot of work for him to get out of that hole and be a functioning human adult again, but things apparently didn't completely change for the better for him until he met me. As I quote, I was the light at the end of the tunnel that he desperately wanted to get out of. But I guess ghosts from the past have their way of coming back to haunt you. A few weeks before my birthday, Alex's college friends found his Facebook and contacted him to reconnect. Things went well for them until he was added into their group chat that had Anna in it as well. As what he said, it definitely reignited some old feelings that he had, and it also didn't help that Anna was acting like nothing bad happened between the two of them. They agreed to meet to catch up, one thing led to another, until that one thing ended up being them having sex every day up until the birthday surprise, lol. It only really hit him how much he effed up and realized that he was doing something incredibly crappy when he saw my devastated face after seeing Anna on top of him for the prank that they supposedly planned for me. According to him, he was trying to bring back those strong feelings and emotions that he once felt back when he was with Anna, but seeing me look ruined and distraught made him realize that what he had with me was incomparable to what him and Anna had, so I guess that's what led him to confess and be all remorseful. Of course, I had to hear him apologize and cry in front of me, and I did cry too, but I couldn't bear being around him anymore after hearing all of that. I then calmly told him that I accept his apology, but that I didn't want to be with him anymore and that I'd be leaving the apartment and sort things out once we're both in clearer states of mind. He didn't like that one bit and started sobbing like crazy, and even went as far as hugging me incredibly tight just so that I wouldn't go. It was a struggle, but I eventually got out of his clutches by pushing him away hard enough. I ran as fast as I could, ironic, to get to my car and immediately headed to my aunt's house. When I got there, I just sobbed into my aunt's arms and felt incredibly weak. She probably understood why I was crying that much without asking me why, so she started consoling me until I was too tired to cry and slept. Yesterday, I got a call from a friend of Alex that he's in hospital after being found unresponsive and full of cuts on his arms. I didn't want to go because I'm obviously still hurt about everything, but Alex doesn't have any family anywhere near him, and I'm the only one who knows about his medical history and details, and technically his closest family, so I had to. When I got there, his arms were full of bandages and his face looked all puffy and red. Right now, I'm outside his hospital room, waiting for his doctors to give me an update or tell me anything or something that I should do. He also hasn't woken up yet, so I'm bracing myself for when he does. Truthfully, I do still love him very much, but what he did just made it clear for me that we're not meant to be together. I don't know what I'll do moving forward after all of this, but I'll just let the universe take the wheel for me at this point. I just wish things didn't end up this way. Oh man, what a depressing end, and just when things were looking so hopeful in that last update. God, this is just a horrible situation all around. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one, maybe some advice for OP as well. Either way, let me know. Anyway, that's it from me today. Hope you guys appreciated that story. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.